Oh Herman, dear Herman, what have you done? Turned PlayStation's kingdom into a graveyard of fun. You bet all your chips on the long service spree, but the fans only asked for Bloodborne on PC. You whispered to Aloy, you'll lead us to gold, but all that we got was the same game result. Like your service dreams, oh they burned in the night, like a Discord server in a fanboy fight. Spin, spin, Herman, dance through the fire. You sold us the dream, now you're stuck in the mire. Light service graveyards, abandoned and cold, like a PS portal nobody holds. Towers of gas stations climbing so high, but no one can see through the cash grab disguise. Fair games, oh fair, what a terrible name. Stealing from the rich, Sony's playing that game. You said lip service is future, just give me some time. But now you're demoted, oh what's a decline? Naughty Dog stranded, the last of us cursed. The only thing alive is your PR rehearsed. Spin, spin, Herman, your fate is unkind. Ryan has left you, now watch Sony blind. Your horizon obsession, your service collapse. Your legacy's buried in overpriced scraps. A decade you reigned, but the players withdrew. Aloy can't save you, she's also confused. The fans wanted Kratos, they wanted a thrill, but you chased dollar signs and swallowed the pill. Spin, spin, Herman, your tango is done. They stripped you of power, they fired the gun. The studios are tired, the players all fled. Your legacy lives, but only in red. Spin, spin, Herman, your tango is done. They stripped you of power, they fired the gun. The studios are tired, the players all fled. Your legacy lives, but only in red.
Time to play the game. Imagine a hero shooter where the hero never showed.
That's most definitely what's up.
Imagine a game with a player base that just refused to grow. A 5v5 hero shooter with gameplay that's just okay, and characters that remind me of Tupperware and white bread. No, I'm not talking about Overwatch. Please stop bringing up Overwatch.
I'm vibing!
This game is not Overwatch. It's actually something else. Imagine a game with a story that no one watches. A game that costs $40 that Sony totally botches. It has all my favorite characters, like Lemmy, Dawn, and Craig. At least, I think that's what their names are. I never bothered to check. Concord like the grave, your legacy is safe as a game that no one played, and a price that no one paid. Boop-a-doop-ba, keep-a-doop-da, scoop-a-boop-ba, beep-beep-beep-beep-beep, phlegm. Concord was about as good as accidental. accidentally peeing on your own leg.
That's most definitely what's
Concord,
up.
we're here to lay you to rest. We know you tried your best. You copied so much cool stuff just to turn out lame in the end. I'll never forget my favorite moments, like when Hot Sauce Guy jumped. Remember when he jumped? That was really cool. A rat just ran by on my desk, and even the rat didn't want to play Concord, even though I blessed him with the chance. The $40 he could afford, but the rat just stared on in a trance. Rat, 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 rat. Concord's dead. Rat, 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 rat. Concord's dead. The Costco guys made more money than you. They were just on Jimmy Fallon too. Imagine Lennox being on Jimmy Fallon, because I literally can't. The rat on my desk is eating all my Cheerios and grapes. And also Concord is dead. Concord like the grave. Your legacy is safe as a game that no one played, and a price that no one paid. Rat-a-ta-ta beep-a-da-boom. Skim, milk, the rat fleet, doo-da, doo-da. A guy said he really liked it, and then a bunch of rats ate his face. That's the sound he made when Concord passed away. I wish things turned out different, but either way I'm getting paid. Concord's dead, Concord's dead, and boy is my face red. When the game came out, everybody overslept. Concord's dead, Concord's dead. Holy crap, Lois, Concord's dead. When the game out, people played everything else instead.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome. Glad to have you. I do be back. I do be feeling sick still. You can probably hear it in my voice, but we should be good. We have the Free Roam podcast today with Jor, a return to form, of course. Talking about the aftermath of AC Shadows and everything, which should be good. We have a good number of things to chat about, actually. A surprising number of things. I was not expecting to have this much, but we actually have a number of things because CDPR had their earnings call. And if you don't know, at the earnings calls, CDPR has a history of revealing kind of where they are with development on like The Witcher 4, on the next Cyberpunk game, on a bunch of stuff. So we're going to talk about that. Oh, you're damn right. You're damn right, Ralph. It is, in fact.
Time to play the game.
And that's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about all that. We're going to, oh yeah, one of the biggest surprise. I don't think this is enough to like really do a deep dive on, but they're bringing Game Informer back. If you don't know, like Game Informer was that magazine. If you don't recall, they also had a big YouTube channel, but they did all of these magazines and they were partnered and I think owned by GameStop for a while. And, or maybe since the beginning, I'm honestly not sure, but basically they were shut down last year because nobody goes to GameStop and nobody like is buying physical magazines anymore. But a lot of people were really upset over it. I mean, it was a part of all of our childhoods. I remember buying like Game Informer issues for games I was excited about when I was a kid. And I remember it being a big thing. And shockingly enough, there's some blockchain company that had a bunch of money, bought the rights to the magazine and the website, and brought the whole original team back. So they just like totally Control Z the entire thing. And now they are independent from GameStop and are bringing back the digital magazines, the physical magazines. It's crazy. It's like wild. When are they bringing back G4? Again? Whatever happened to that? G4 reboot. Yeah. I mean, you just Google it. Rise and double downfall of G4 TV. Jesus. Some of these edits, man. Yeah, G4, 2002 to 2014. They brought it back. It lasted about a year. it was brought back. I think it wasn't it Comcast. I think it was Comcast that like rebooted it, and it was just a disaster. Like, the other thing I didn't realize until I watched it back recently, look who's sitting on the couch next to Frost. The completionist. Isn't that funny? He would end up in his own amount of trouble just a couple years later. But this whole thing, yeah, and then this guy who, if there's ever been a person who needs to get off social media, it's this guy, Adam, I think something. He's an OG, he's a veteran, but bro cannot just talk about video games. Like, he has to ramble about politics every 10 seconds. And it's like, the reason I don't is, for one, I'm a gaming YouTuber. You should not care what I think about politics. Like, if you come to me for political takes, you're dumber than a dummy. I'm sorry to tell you. But also, like, the moment you talk about politics, half of your audience is polarized against you. Half of your audience is polarized towards you, sure. But there's just no reason. We're talking about video games. Like, it's not that serious. You know, people come to talk about video games to escape politics, to escape the real world, not to like ramble about it more. But this whole show just turned into like this bizarre hodgepodge of like, what are we doing? I thought this was about video games. And the shows weren't even very successful. I think they were maxing out at like 20, 30,000 views on a video. And it just steadily got worse and worse and worse as time went on. Yeah. What's my political view on the planet Jupiter? Could take it or leave it. Oh, Jesus. You know, this or that. Yeah. This or that. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Thank you, Moonlight. I hope you're having a good day too. Stampy. Thank you for that first time message on Twitch. Came over from the YouTube channel. Hope you're having a great day so far. I love the game reviews. Thank you, my friend. Thank you. Glad to have you. Glad to have you. Yeah, it's just ego takes hold, makes you think people want to hear what you have to say. Yeah, probably. Like, it's fine if you're a political YouTuber or streamer or whatever and you talk about politics. Like, that's literally why people are coming to you. But for a gaming YouTuber to start rambling about it, it's never made sense to me. I'm like, what are we doing? Like, and it didn't used to be that way. Like, it used to be that you could have a clear delineation, but then everything in life became politics. And it's just like, yeah, it sucks the fun out of everything. You know what is fun though? You know what is fun? Going to LukeStevensTV.com and picking up some merch and playing specifically with the website. Even if you don't buy any merch, just go and play with this, because you can make like little webs. It's just fun. Sometimes I'm sitting here rambling about something and I'll just be sitting on the merch page clicking with this, and it's just kind of mesmerizing. You want to get nothing done for a week? Get high and then go to this website. Tell you what. Get yourself a Hype Makes You Stupid t-shirt. Support the page and get nothing done on the website because it's mesmerizing. Okay. Let's do this. Good. What's the first thing to talk about? Oh, as a finance guy, I thought this was really, really funny. This has like nothing to do with anything specifically gaming. I just thought it was really funny. Because I've talked recently about how people that like sometimes talk about certain topics don't actually know what they're talking about, but they put it out there and then people will start linking it and sharing it all over the place as if it's fact when the person that made the article has no idea what they're doing. This was really funny. A story in 3 parts. Electric.co posted Tesla accounting raises red flags as report shows $1.4 billion missing. Oh my gosh. If you have any investments in like major, the S&P 500, or does the S&P 500 own Tesla? Whatever, you know what I mean? Like major exchange traded funds. If your retirement is tied to any pensions that owns Tesla, like this should be alarming. Oh my God, they're missing $1.4 billion. What's the next page? Headline should be Fred Lambert raises red flags about his understanding of accounting. And then they issued a retraction. In reality, the Financial Times just didn't understand the accounting and an expert reached out to them to explain it to them. Apparently didn't understand how the accounting worked. And so they had to issue a retraction and take it down because like, we didn't understand what the books were saying. Okay. Like, Jesus. Imagine doing that, trying to start like a whole scandal. $1.4 billion is missing. And then somebody comes along. No, it's over there. Oh. Okay, never mind. Like, that's basically what happened. It's crazy. Oh. Sounds like litigation. I mean, it could be, especially if it caused like mass freakouts and sell-offs. Like, there actually could be cause for a lawsuit or something, because Tesla could come and say, hey, you're manipulating the market. That's something that, like, there's been lawsuits filed against Elon, because Elon will say something kind of dumb that, like, oh, the company is expected, yeah, we're totally going to ship this new car in a year, which is not going to happen. And that causes the stock to go up when it shouldn't. And so there's been lawsuits and stuff from the SEC over that. So you got to be careful what you say publicly if it affects like a big publicly traded stock, for sure. You got to be careful. Let's see. Oh yeah, Jason Schreier backed up. This also is like a tiny little thing, but just as a heads up. So in a few minutes, we're going to go through the earnings call that CDPR had and some of the information we got about that, with like some of the new hirings over The Witcher 4, their expected release dates, all of that stuff. We're going to talk about it. But as part of this discourse and everything, Jason Schreier, he actually came forward and clarified also neither The Witcher 4 nor Intergalactic the Heretic Prophet will release in 2026, meaning soonest we get them 2027, 2028, 2029, sometime in there. Which isn't like that surprising, but for anybody that was thinking they were going to pump it out quick.
Mike Dow Meme donated $9.99
Mike.
to Super Chat.
Booyah.
Hey Luke, my B-Day tax. But just want to say I appreciate you not being a grifter YouTuber. Your channel is growing is perfect example. Also been enjoying AC Shadows as person who doesn't like AC games.
As person who doesn't like AC games, lol. Well, first of all, thank you for watching and supporting. $10 is very generous, so thank you. As for not being a grifter, I mean, it's funny because depending on where you look, like the AC Reddit like page, the main r/Assassin's Creed, they, prior to the game's launch, were saying that I was just a hater and I was just bashing the game, even though I never, like, I feel like most of my critiques were pretty fair from the previews and everything. And I would say I think Ubisoft thinks my critiques have been fair, which is why they interact with me and still talk to me. You know, if they thought I was just like hating for the sake of hating, I don't think they would invite me or send me review codes and stuff. But as for the, after launch, now you have people flipping. Like we did that video yesterday where I just said, hey, love it or hate it, you can hate AC Shadows, that's fine. But it is outperforming what they expected it to do. Does that mean it magically saves the company? No. Does not mean that. But they expected it to perform about as well as Odyssey, and it's performing close to double Odyssey in the same period. When we're comparing apples to apples, we're comparing player counts, and it has close to twice the players and is expected to have close to twice the players within the first month as Odyssey did. So it's outperforming. Does that mean it's a wild success? No, but I didn't say that. I said it's outperforming. But even with that video, you see people that are like claiming, oh no, it's actually a flop. It's terrible. Look at this game, that performed better. It's like, can't have anything nice. Also, shout out to my vacuum. Look how good it did. Don't you love making patterns in the carpet with your vacuum? Isn't it the most satisfying thing on the planet? Shout out to vacuums. They don't get enough credit. What watch am I wearing? It is a Seiko Solar Diver watch. Repping it. Black. You can get it on Amazon. It's not crazy expensive. It's a good substitute if you like the look of a Submariner Rolex, but you don't want to spend $10,000. It's a good substitute, and it gets the job done. It's nice and clean. Do you dive? When I go on vacation, you know, I don't think I've ever, have I told the story of when we went diving when I went on vacation in Hawaii like 7 years ago or something? We went on vacation and we went on this like catamaran thing around the island. We were on Kauai. And so it's like the island where they filmed the intro helicopter sequence in Jurassic Park, you know, welcome to Jurassic Park. And they show it. That's that island. So we were around there on the boat and there was like a $75 whatever excursion upgrade to get to go scuba diving. I had never been scuba diving before. I had no experience. I was certainly not certified. But I was like, sure, let's do it. And my understanding was, and what they told us was, yeah, you're going to go no deeper than like 10 feet down. You'll put on the tanks and everything, you know, the respirator, but you'll go like 10 feet down. We'll go through the motions of like, how do you get your respirator back on? How do you clear your mask? All of that stuff. But they did the first group, which was everybody that was certified. It was probably more than 75, honestly. It was probably like 150 or 200. I don't remember. It was like 7 years ago. But they took the first group out who were all scuba certified. And they went down like 40, 50 feet. I mean, they were deep down there swimming with, you know, sea turtles and stuff. And then our group came and it was a very private thing. So it was like me, who would eventually become my 2 sisters-in-law, and then like a family friend. So it was a pretty small group. But we got in our suits and everything, and we hop in with an instructor who had been on the other side of the boat, kind of supervising some of the snorkeling stuff. So what I think happened is he didn't know that we were the non-certified group. I think he thought we were certified and the other group was not. Because we went 40 feet down. Like we had the little depth gauge on our wrist as part of like the setup. He took us all the way down. And at one point, one of the people that was down with us, who I won't be specific with, had like a panic attack 40 feet under the surface, which is not where you want to have a panic attack while you're underwater in a mask with an air tank. Like you don't want to have a panic attack. She started like freaking out. She wanted to go up. She's like panicking. And the instructor was like, we can't go up. That's all he's doing. So eventually, and I kid you not, he just like, as we're swimming, he just grabs like the back of her suit or whatever, and he starts swimming and just pulling her along as she's like scraping the bottom of the sea floor. She might have blacked out, but he's like, you can't go up. You'll get the bends. We have to slowly go up. And so he just dragged her along the ocean floor as she like was blacked out, panicking. But you know, we ended up having a great time. I got to go down there, swim next to sea turtles, swim like next to the little anemone. You see Merlin and his wife raising little baby Nemos. It was crazy cool. I was very thankful actually that he thought we were certified and took us all the way down, because if we just went down 10 feet, it wouldn't have been that interesting. But it made me go, oh, I want to get certified. Scuba is cool. And I don't know about you guys, but I grew up watching those shows. What was it? It was like Deep Sea Detectives or something, where they went and they would scuba dive down to shipwrecks and stuff. I would love to be able to do that eventually. It's very dangerous. I wouldn't go into the shipwreck, but swim around it and look at it. I'd love that. So yeah, all of that to say, I do like diving. But obviously being, you know, living in Colorado, a landlocked state, there's not a lot of opportunity for it. But yeah. Yeah. Are they expensive? Or what expensive? I might have missed it. Didn't know you could get the bends at 40 feet. I think it depends on how long you're down there. I don't remember how long we were down there. It was a while, at least it felt like a while. But I think it's if you're only down there for a little bit, it's not as severe. But if you go down and you stay for a while, it can get dangerous. Yeah. But yeah, I'm not overly familiar. It's been a while. Why do men like watches? I think it's It's a subtle way of like communicating social status for some people. Like you go to a golf course, a nice golf course, and you see somebody wearing a nice Rolex or Patek Philippe or something, and you know, like, oh, that guy's very successful. Like it's a subtle way to flex. It's the same reason why guys like, you know, driving the super fancy Rolls Royce cars and stuff, because it says like, yeah, I'm better than you. That's kind of what it is. I like functional watches like this. I brought this one to the Bahamas. This is not a luxury watch. Seiko's make great watches. But this is like, you can get it on sale for like $300. Gets the job done. It's a very nice watch. I get complimented on this watch way more than like on my, like when I had an Apple Watch Ultra, which is like an $800 watch. People comment on this way more, you know? Flava Flav watch. Dude, I haven't thought about Flava Flav in a while. You remember when he used to go on Chris Angel's show all the time? He'd do the Mind Freak stuff. He was like one of the weird features. He was always in that show. He was really, really weird. Whatever, man. I use a sundial. Good for you, man. Oh, yeah. What a great one. After the success of Marvel Rivals, I've seen growing interest in PvE superhero IP. After Marvel's Avengers, Kill the Justice League, Gotham Knights. Do you think there's still potential in this? Appreciate your commentary on YouTube. I mean, I think superhero, the nice thing about like doing superhero stuff is that you have a huge catalog of potential like new playable characters that you can stock up on and can get people interested and get them excited. I think without a doubt, there's interest in superhero IP. I mean, they're very, very successful. Whether or not it like actually, because for every success, there's like 5 failures, you know, like we can point to Suicide Squad, like you said, or Gotham Knights or things like that. The Avengers game, we can point to plenty of failures. And then Marvel Rivals comes out and is super successful. But I don't know if it means that, you know, superhero IP are necessarily more prone to success than other IP would be. I think it's just, you know, you got to make a really good game that people connect with, and Marvel Rivals is that. And whether you love or hate Marvel Rivals, I mean, you got to acknowledge that they've nailed the post-launch support. They have playable characters coming once every 6 to 8 weeks. It's crazy. It's crazy. They've also been able to balance it pretty well. They've got, you know, a good competitive scene as well. So they've just figured it out. And you compare it to how like Overwatch has been run for the last 5 years, and it's night and day. I mean, Overwatch 2, you see them like struggling to do any, like, it's not even a new map. It's like a revamp of an old map with a couple things moved around, and they act like this is some sort of major update. And it's like, not really. Unpopular opinion, Marvel Rivals would still be popular even without the Marvel part. It very well could be. I think it would have been harder to market, but it very well could be, because it is a very good game. It's just well put together. Let me catch up on these real quick before I fall too far behind with super chats and everything. Let's see. Caleb, thank you for the 9 months. Hell yeah. How effing dare you? Jupiter does so much for us, keeping asteroids and comets away from us. Freaking millennial, not respecting hardworking planets. I mean, that's your opinion. I think Jupiter is full of it. I think Jupiter up there, it strikes me as a planet that insists upon itself, you know? And I'm tired of pretending otherwise. I'm going to come out and say it. Nobody else is brave enough to say it. I'll say it. I think somebody needs to stand up to Jupiter. Yeah, exactly. Jupiter needs to pay their fair share of solar system taxes. I agree. Yeah, Monster. Exactly. That's a good old Family Guy reference. It insists upon itself. Morgan, thank you for the new membership. John, thank you for the 2. Luke, with your background, do you teach finance? No, I don't teach. I mean, I ramble about it a lot. But not financial advice. But yeah, I ramble about it a lot. Mike Demean, thank you again for the 10. That was very generous. Flacco Gaming, thank you for the 5. Luke, why is there so many AAA games this year? Feels like 2007 and 2015, so hype. Part of it is a lot of stuff got delayed out of 2024, just because they needed to polish, and it was clear that players were not buying unpolished things. And the other piece is that everybody's trying to get their game out before GTA 6, because if they don't get their game out by this fall, they pretty much can't launch it until next spring. Which 6 months, basically 4 to 6 months, is a lot of money to pay your team to basically just polish and refine when you could put the game out. So a lot of studios have just really tried to push to get their games out before like September. There's been recent stories. We talked about them on stream of all of these companies that are openly saying, yeah, if GTA 6 is confirmed for the fall, we are delaying. Like 3 major publishers have already said that. So, it's just a weird, in many ways, like GTA 6 is like this black hole, or perhaps a Jupiter-like planet. It's just massive, and its gravitational force is such that it affects everything around it, whether you like it or not. It just does. And so everybody's having to try and find a way to navigate that. Yeah, Rockstar Games is a pain in the ass for a lot of other companies. Yeah. I mean, but they're also hoping that it brings in a lot of people to the current generation. A lot of the people that are sitting right now still on PS4s and Xbox Ones. They're hoping that is what pushes them to buy a PS5 and Series X, and that will in turn lead to higher sales for them. And so it's all part of it. Yeah, without a doubt. It's certainly a nuisance because it may end up helping them, but it's one of those things that's completely beyond everybody else's control, but it will definitely affect you. So everybody's just kind of sitting on the sidelines, waiting patiently to see what the, silverback gorilla does. Everybody's like, oh, I don't want to get in his way. Let him do his thing. That's basically what's happening. Sumaya, thank you for that super chat. I love how Shadows took Cult of Cosmos' menu and took it to the next extreme and made side quests for each type. Assassinating targets is super fun. Yeah, the quest board. Initially, I really didn't like the quest board that they had taken from Mirage and put forward to Shadows. You eventually get used to it, and it's kind of intuitive. And I do like how each area kind of has its own mini board, and each theme, like each group of quests, is tied to its own thing. So it takes a little while to get used to, but once you get used to it, I think it's a little bit more intuitive. I'd like to know why they chose to do that instead of just having a quest list. Maybe they just thought it was more interesting, and that's literally the extent of it, but I'm not totally sure. Mr. Steelio Kill, thank you for the 12 months, 1 year. Ooh, baby. Anyway, Shadows has been fun, but I went back to Black Flag, and that was my mistake because that ooey gooey feeling of that game is amazing. Amazing. Yeah, dude. I really hope they don't screw up the Black Flag remake. I will be so sad if they screw that up. They will be too, because that's such a layup. I mean, seriously. Such a layup. People love Black Flag. Even people that don't like Assassin's Creed love Black Flag. We'll see. We'll see. Never doubt a big corporation's ability to snatch defeat from the mouth of victory. Let's see. Michael, thank you for, oops, scroll too far. Thank you for 3 months. Happy anniversary. Ooh, baby. Can you tell us if you'll be playing The Last of Us Part 2 when it comes out on PC next week? Yeah, I'm going to try it. I'm very curious to see if they figure out their PC stuff, because the Spider-Man PC port was pretty bad. The Last of Us Part 1 PC port was really bad. So I'm excited to see if they have actually put effort into it. We'll see. We'll see. Scratch got a Depends ad on the stream. I mean, you know that the ads that Twitch plays for you are specific to you, right? No judgment. You know, everybody's, you know, sometimes you struggle with leakage, but, you know, no shade. No shade. Yeah. Oh, shit. Oh, man. Let's see. Where was I? I read that one. Okay. Kino Man Sky, thing for 17 months. Ooh, baby. Did you see the last Kingmaker video? Devs chose UE4 Destruction Tech fast on GPU. UE5 is RT superficial. Also need to react to Laura Frey videos, her last video on Monolith. Ooh, I can add that to our little list of to do. There we go. Okay, I've got that pulled up in another tab. We'll see if we have time. As for the Kingmaker vid, yeah, I mean, that game just looks insane. It's like the prime example of a game that is just like outrageous. It's just about the ridiculous fun. If you don't remember, guys, that's the game where like you like it's all medieval and then they spawn a pickup truck and just drive through the crowds and have machine guns and RPGs and stuff. It's just crazy. But that's, I mean, it's just stupid fun. It's not that serious. It's not trying to teach you anything. It's just silly. And that's what's fun about it. Jay Moore, thank you for the 2. I knew I couldn't trust you after your Pluto take. Well, you know, if you've been, you know, if you've been brainwashed by big Pluto and now big Jupiter, then that's just what it's going to be. I hope you see the light eventually. Oh, thank you, Christopher.
Christopher Burnett donated $9.99 through Super Chat. I'm predicting GTA 6 Trailer 2 will drop April 29th. It's on a Tuesday, which Rockstar loves, and it's the exact same date GTA 4 launched in 2008.
It's possible. It's possible. I also think it's possible they do it on April 1st, because I think that would be so funny if they, like, on April 1st made a post saying, later today we'll be dropping a trailer, and half the internet will be like, we don't believe you. And then they actually do. I think it'd be really, really funny. I mean, more than anything, I think literally no one knows when it's going to drop. It's just going to come as a total surprise, but I do think sometime in April we should see it. I think that's likely because they're just kind of running out of time not to. Let me see. Yeah, it's also 1 week before the earnings call. Yeah, it has to happen before the earnings call, which is, unless if it doesn't happen before the earnings call, it's getting delayed. So I agree that we see it sometime in April, I think. Maybe first week in May, maybe, but we'll just see. They can do literally whatever they want. They could drop the trailer with no announcement and it will still do 200 million views. I mean, it's just, that's why it's like such an exceptional game, because it is literally an exception to every single game. Every rule that's been written for games marketing doesn't apply to it. They can do whatever they want. So what are you going to do? Let's see. Blake, thank you for the 5. Playing AC Shadows, experiencing its story after playing KCD2 feels really bad, like a downgrade. It's the danger of trying a masterpiece like KCD2 and then going to a game that's just like good. Especially the writing in Shadows, I find really dry. And when you compare it to KCD2, which has some like outrageous, silly stuff in it, and it's also very well written, it's KCD2. It's fantastic. It is tough to go back, without a doubt. I mean, but that's to be expected. You know, you watch Citizen Kane and then you go try to watch She-Hulk. It's going to feel really bad in comparison, you know. I don't know why I pulled She-Hulk. Where did that come from? I don't know. Let's see. Gaylord Wanker, thank you for the super chat. What a name. Have you seen AC's tweet roasting Elon best ratio? Oh, I've got it pulled up. We'll look at it in just a second. Christopher, thank you again for that 10. That's very generous. Burnt Bread, thank you for the 5. Great video on the finals. I'm glad they're promoting it more. Are you looking forward to Switch 2? First of all, yeah, the finals. I played it with my brothers and my wife Nikki last night. We've been playing it the last week or 2, whatever it's been. And yeah, I just like the finals, man. We kind of hit a wall with Marvel Rivals and we're like, okay, let's shake it up. Let's try something different. And the finals is just, the reason I stopped playing it at launch was because performance was not great. It would get like stuttery and it had some glitches and problems with like the physics sim. Now all of that's fixed. It just runs really well. And so we've been having a lot of fun with it, frankly. So yeah, I've been eating that up. As for the Switch 2, yeah, I am excited. I don't know what to expect when it comes to first party stuff. If literally all they have at launch is like a new Mario Kart, I'll find that kind of underwhelming, but you know, I guess we'll see. We'll see what they've got. You know, they've got a lot. But we'll keep an eye on it. Hope you're feeling better, Luke. Yeah, me too. Me too. I want my voice back. Jade Lecon, thank you for the membership as well, my friend. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And then let's see. I think I'm caught up there. Okay, sweet. Yeah, let's talk about this real quick. So, new segment. New 6 segment. Goodness gracious. Oh. Okay. So, little backstory for this. Okay. Little backstory. There's a few key characters you need to know for this. Okay. For this little story we're about to tell. We're about to paint for you. Okay. Number 1, there's a streamer named Hassan. We're not going to get into specifics of his political takes or whatever. All you need to know is that he is largely disliked by a good chunk of the internet. He has a lot of fans, millions of fans. A lot of people don't like him. Some of the people that don't like him are Elon Musk and another guy named Grums. Now, Grums, if you don't know, he's like an old school World of Warcraft, Diablo, StarCraft dev from the olden days. Nowadays, he is mainly just on Twitter/X complaining about games being WOKE to keep it YouTube friendly. Okay. The other thing you need to know is that Grums also did like a Kickstarter for a game he wanted to do years ago. And so collected like a bunch of money to produce that game, and it's never launched. It's just nowhere to be seen. And I think the work in progress updates have been remarkably slow. It's just, I don't know if development hell is even the right term, but whatever. Those are the building blocks for this. Okay. The other thing to remember is the whole thing with Elon Musk, where he said that he was like top 10 in the world at Path of Exile 2. And then it was revealed and people figured out that his account was actually primarily leveled up using basically having paid somebody else to grind it up for him. And so he paid somebody to play on this account, get it to that level, and then he just takes over, plays it for a little bit, and is like, ooh, I'm super powerful, which is something he's been caught doing for other games like Elden Ring, where he's like over encumbered for the entirety of the game and just doesn't even know how the inventory works. So those are all the building blocks of this, okay? Whether you love or hate these people, that's just what you need to understand before we go to this. Grums tweeted out, "You can tell a lot about Ubisoft with how much money they're throwing at terrorist platforming streamers, because they paid Hassan to stream Shadows. They sponsored him to play it, a bunch of other streamers as well." And then Elon replies, "Hassan is a fraud." Oh, and then he follows up, "Sellout would be more accurate. Objectively, he's promoting a terrible game just for the money." Okay. And I mean, this is dramatic. It's dramatic. But then something interesting happened. Whoever is running the AC official X page snapped and had enough. Okay? They snapped. After Elon said that Hassan was a sellout promoting a terrible game just for the money. They replied, "Is that what the guy playing your Path of Exile 2 account told you?" And he has been ratioed into oblivion. Like, Jesus Christ. They came out swinging. You know, it's appropriate that it's Assassin's Creed, because this is just about as much of a social media assassination as I've ever seen. Just a 1-2 punch. Jesus Christ. Okay, they brought a machine gun to a fist fight. But then it continues, okay? It gets even better. Because what happens? Well, Grums replies with a screenshot of an article. I don't know what this article is from or who it is. But they replied to this. He replied to this post from Assassin's Creed that at this point, again, 568,000 likes. We're quickly approaching probably one of the most, if not the most, conclusive ratioing of all time on the platform. But he replies to this and says, just a screenshot of this article that says Assassin's Creed Shadows isn't the hit Ubisoft desperately needs, analyst says. And it says Assassin's Creed Shadows is selling well, but it's reportedly tracking behind AC Valhalla and falls short of 2025 hits like Split Fiction, which all of that is probably true. Like, it's tracking behind Valhalla. Literally no one expected it to outperform Valhalla. Like, nobody did. They expected it to perform roughly in line with Odyssey, and it's actually outperforming that, which, you know, still might not mean that it's the savior game it desperately needs, but, you know, it still is outperforming what they expected it to do. You know, it just is. You don't have to like it, but it just seems to be. And it's falling short of 2025 hits like Split Fiction. Okay, yeah, that's very possible. Split Fiction is phenomenal. Game of the Year contender without a doubt. I don't think Shadows is a Game of the Year contender, but it's, you know, like, this stuff is true. I don't really see how this is a response to this, but okay. But what happens after this? Well, Assassin's Creed, the account, decided that they wanted to do a double assassination. In response to Grums, they replied, "Our game is out." And they have also ratioed him into the depths of hell. Like, Jesus Christ. Whoever is running this account finally just had enough. They're like, I don't care. Fire me. I'm going to go at him. I'm doing it. Jesus. Wow. So I have not seen the internet collectively come together around a big brand, a multi-billion-dollar franchise like this in a very long time. I guess it just took Elon and Grums teaming up to present themselves as like the villains for this, but they have somehow managed to make Assassin's Creed seem based in comparison, which is remarkable. You know, that really is an accomplishment. It really is. Either way, it's freaking hilarious. And I think that, you know, after this, there's been kind of a large fallout after this, where a lot of people have said that, you know, we're going to like play it. Yeah. You know what? Maybe I will play Assassin's Creed. 13,000 like I've seen screenshots of people adding AC Shadows to their Steam library, you know, buying it because they thought that this was so funny. And they're like, yeah, oh, Elon doesn't like him. That means I like him. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy. But I think what this means is that moving forward, especially through 2025 and into 2026, when these people that are like the big anti-woke mob, when they move in and try to target a game, because remember, they tried to go after not just AC Shadows, but they went after KCD 2. They were trying to say that Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 was like horrible and woke and was going to go broke and whatever else. And I think what you're seeing now is just a clear thing. Oh, Split Fiction 2. Yeah, they went after Split Fiction because it had 2 female protagonists named after the director's daughters. They're like, oh, clearly it's woke because it's girls. So, I think what you're going to see is like companies are just going to try to face this head on, and they're just going to make fun of these people and try to mock them and kind of disarm them that way, instead of what AC Shadows did for the first 6 months, which was to just kind of like try to counter it, trying to like address it kind of covertly and indirectly. Now I think they're just going to just be like, okay, yeah, well, your game is out. You took money from people and didn't put the game out. Okay. Oh, is that what your Path of Exile 2 grind player told you to say? Oh, interesting. You just like make fun of them. And I think that that's the new tact. That's the new strategy. And honestly, it's probably not a bad strategy, because somehow, again, AC Shadows is unifying people in a bizarre way. Again, like you see people, they earn this. Like directly responding to that, somebody's saying that they bought the game. And I think there's probably a decent number of people doing it. Again, does it magically save Ubisoft from the corporate restructuring that I think is going to happen? No, I think that stuff's going to happen regardless. A little bit of clout on social media doesn't magically fix years of mismanagement.
Lil Lou donated $9.99 through Super Chat. I'm buying Shadows.
Lil Lou, thank you for the 10. And there you go. Yeah. Imagine Elon buys Ubisoft now. Dude, now that would be funny. Also like kind of horrifying, but that still would be really, really funny. I just think with all of this, people, whatever you think about the messaging of people that are like trying to get KCD2 canceled, Shadows canceled, that type of thing. If you have people that are involved in the industry that are trying to affect the industry, who are not concerned with the games first and foremost as games, but rather as cultural topics and subjects, I don't think that helps the games industry. I just don't think it does. I think what makes the games industry a better industry is caring about the games as games. If you approach them as pieces of just some chunk of the cultural zeitgeist, it just whittles it down to another one of the cultural, cornerstones that you're going to try to take apart because you don't like it. And so I just think like you should talk about the games and critique the games as games, and you can mention cultural things about them you don't like, or if there's broader things going on politically that you want to address. Okay. But I think finally, like, people are just kind of fed up with pretending as though a game is bad because of a cultural effect, instead of it's bad because of these gameplay design decisions or the structure of questing or world design. I think people are just like, I just want to play the game. I want to, like, is it a good game though? Is the game good? Because I lots of games will not pass your purity test. I'm just primarily concerned with whether it's a good game or not. And it's like I said, going back to like Dustborn, checked a lot of these boxes for why these people would hate it for cultural reasons. That's fine. But the reason Dustborn was a terrible game was because it was a terrible game. Like, Dustborn across the board was boring. The characters were awful. The writing was terrible. Like, it was just a terrible game. And so it flopped. Same with something like Concord. It was a horrifyingly bad game in terms of like how they presented it to players, how they marketed it to players. It had nothing unique or special to offer players, and they charged $40. Like, there were all of these cascading things for why it failed. It didn't just fail because some of the characters look like blueberries, which they did. But that wasn't magically why. People tried to make it out like, yeah, it flopped because the character designs were woke. No, it was 15,000 different things. That was maybe a subject, like a bullet point on it. But it's not just the one cultural tidbit. It's all of this other stuff. And I think when you whittle things down to just the cultural aspect or just the political aspect of it, you lose the nuance that will drive developers to making better games. And I mean, I think you can also see that I think a good number of these people are not concerned with the quality of the game at the end of the day, because you saw them going after things like Split Fiction, which is a fantastic game, and KCD2, which is a fantastic game. And they're like, no, that doesn't matter because we don't like this one aspect of it that doesn't pass the purity test. And at that point, okay, you're not going to be playing many games I'm sorry. If you're checking everything against your purity test, you're going to eventually not play anything because nothing will ever pass it, you know? Who complained about KCD2? These same guys. Grums at one point said he thought like even Monster Hunter looked really good, and then his own community came at him and he had to update his post on X about it because he was like, it's come to my attention that Capcom has done some woke stuff recently, so we might have to keep an eye on Monster Hunter. It may not actually end up being very good. It's like, you can't even enjoy Monster Hunter. You can't even enjoy Monster Hunter. Are the dinosaurs woke now? Like, what are we talking about? We've sold a chunk of our brain to like the altar of anti-woke whatever. And it's just like, at some point, if you're a gamer, you should just care about the game as a game and talk about the quality of the game. You know, that can be a part of the discussion, but it shouldn't be the only part of the discussion, you know? Oh yeah, no, nobody's saying you have to buy AC Shadows. Yeah, I don't want to buy them because of Ubisoft as a company. Is that a varied, or maybe you mean valid reason? Yeah, no, as with all of these things, you can vote with your wallet. Like, if you don't like X company, don't buy their stuff. If you don't like Neil Druckmann, you don't have to buy Intergalactic, The Heretic Prophet, or watch The Last of Us. Like, if you can do whatever, you can vote with your wallet. Absolutely. What drives, I think, most players and most just more normal, like middle of the road gamers, what drives them crazy is when they are bullied out of playing a game, or people try to bully them out of playing a game because it doesn't pass someone else's purity test. You know, it's like, oh, you don't like this developer, so therefore, you know, maybe you think Todd Howard, you hate Todd Howard for whatever reason, and you're like, so therefore I'm not going to play Elder Scrolls 6, and I'm going to try to get everybody canceled who plays it. I'm going to go into their chats and I'm going to like type some horrifying things in there to try and get the video blacklisted and stuff. It's like craziness. Same thing that happened with like Hogwarts Legacy. That didn't pass some people's purity test because of J.K. Rowling. We had people coming into our streams when we played it on launch day, and it was like a coordinated effort where we had like 3-4 people coming into chat, and they were typing out the N-word in all caps, one letter at a time, to try and flood the chat with the N-word to get the stream taken down, I guess, or to like get YouTube to flag and report it or something. And like at that point, like, do you really think you're the good guys if you find yourself doing that? You know, it's like, oh yeah, let me type the N-word. I'm the good guy. Like, what are we doing, dude? It's the same thing. Like, I cannot comprehend it. You know, I cannot comprehend it. It's insane. It's insane. But that's just where you run into trouble, you know. And I think with all this stuff, it gets you know, pushed to the top whenever there's like an election season. Political stuff gets discussed way more. Of course, 2024 was that. But I think there's kind of the pendulum swing. People are going to swing the other way now and try to chill out a little bit. So I think it'll, you know, we'll get back to a sense of normalcy within a decent amount of time, but this is just what happens. But then they do kind of get canceled. Hogwarts Legacy wasn't even mentioned at the Game Awards. Yeah, well, and that was because, in my opinion, a lot of like the journalists and outlets that get to choose who's nominated and vote on that stuff, they tend to have a particular political leaning, and it was a political leaning that would lead to that game not being nominated for all of those reasons that were readily apparent. The fact that Hogwarts Legacy wasn't even nominated for like best like sound design was laughable. and like really ridiculous. But you even saw groups like Digital Foundry. They didn't want to talk about the game. They waited like a month or two before even doing like a tech review of Hogwarts Legacy because they didn't want to cover it. They didn't want to platform it or whatever. You know, it was just insane. It was stupid. Okay, let me swap those there. Okay. Okay. Some people are just deranged. I mean, I think some of it might be just trolling, because that definitely does happen. Some of it was these people that actually thought that they were like fighting the good fight by typing the N-word.
The WHOO Stir donated $9.99 through Super Chat. If
Thank
the
you.
game has W0K themes, it is indicative of the rest of the game design. There are so many examples the past 10 years you have to be blind to ignore. Games suffer when these themes are number one.
Games suffer when these are the number one priority. So here's the thing. I agree. They suffer when that's the number one priority. I agree. I think what happens though is that for example, I would say that something like Dustborn, where that was like the number one priority, where you can tell everything followed from that, where like you even have the characters like with their ultimate ability to trigger other characters and stuff. That pretty clearly affects everything else. They hire writers who are self-proclaimed like activist writers. If they were good writers, they wouldn't have to put the word activist in front of it. They would just be writers. But they have to sell themselves as activist writers because they're not good enough to just be writers, you know? So I think absolutely you can end up in a lot of trouble when that is the top priority. What I'm saying is that you inevitably see people then trying to create a purity test where if there is anything that could be deemed W0KE, the entire thing has to be thrown away, shed, you know. But that's, I think, demonstrably not true. If activism is the number one priority for your game studio, the game's gonna suck. It just, like 99% of the time it will. But there's been plenty of other examples. God of War Ragnarok, Sweet Baby Inc. consulted on God of War Ragnarok. That game was awesome. So pretty clearly it didn't actually affect it. It was not the number one priority, but their involvement did not make that game terrible. It just didn't. And with other games like Forspoken or Saints Row Reboot, I think there's a bunch of cascading things where like, yeah, the bad writing, the attempts to make like the modern audience, that was a chunk of why the game was bad, but it wasn't like the number one priority. It was also just a bad game. And my frustration with a lot of this is that inevitably you end up with people just trying to whittle things down to, it didn't pass the purity test, so therefore the game is bad because it didn't pass the purity test. When actually it's bad because all of this stuff was crappy and everything was bad. Maybe because, you know, they prioritize this or that, but we lose the nuance of the discussion of the game when it's like, no, Saints Row Reboot was also just a bad game. Like the questing design was bad. The encounters were bad. The open world was bland and uninteresting. Like there were all of these things and none of that gets discussed because it's all just like, it whittles down into like the most base form of discourse around it, you know? Yeah, it's an overcorrection to the point where we're now throwing the baby out with the bathwater in some instances. Yeah, I think Nubby, I think that's a good way of describing it. I think that it is absolutely valid to dislike activist participation in the industry. And I think that activist involvement in the industry will, and often does, make like the games that they work on worse than they could otherwise have been. But it does not mean that just because an activist touched a game that therefore the whole game is terrible. Because I think there's clear examples of games that they touched that still ended up being really, really good. But instead, you just see people, because it doesn't pass the purity test, because an activist touched it, the entire thing has to be thrown away. Like I said, God of War Ragnarok. So like Sweet Baby Inc. had that on their website. God of War Ragnarok was phenomenal. Like, it was great, an amazing game. It wasn't terrible because they touched it. Like, so I think you can throw the baby out with the bathwater because they touched it, but you're going to miss out on some really good games. If it weren't for activists, AC would still not have a female player. No, apparently that was because there was one guy that worked, I forget his name, but there was one guy that worked in the upper echelons of Ubisoft, and he was the one that said nobody actually wants to see Assassin's Creed in Japan, which was kind of funny, because it was like the most popular setting for Assassin's Creed, voted by fans for like years and years and years. But he said nobody wants to do that. He said we're not going to ever do a female protagonist. He had a bunch of things like that he just said no. And he was caught up in those scandals like maybe 5-6 years ago, like early COVID, right before COVID, where they, like, Ubisoft had to fire a bunch of people for like hostile work environments, for like as part of the Me Too movement and all of that. So they kicked a bunch of those people out. And he was like the one guy that basically got the thumbs up, thumbs down on different projects to green light or not green light. And once he was gone, it was probably before that, because I think AC Odyssey. No, it was Valhalla. So I think it was like 2019, 2018 or something that he went out. But anyway, yeah, for him, it was like he was one guy that was preventing all of that. And then once he was gone, they opened it up. And that's why, like, you know, Cassandra and female Ivor are like the canonical choices. I know Cassandra is. I'm actually not sure if they said whether male or female Ivor was the canonical. I'm not sure. Ashraf? No, it wasn't Ashraf. It was one of the like corporate guys in Paris. I can never remember his name. But he was like one of the head honchos for a while, for like 15 years or whatever. I don't think Valhalla has a canonical version. Oh, maybe they never clarified it. Let's see. What was my most anticipated game of 2025 besides GTA 6? Personally, mine is Borderlands 4, a long time fan of that series. I would have said KCD 2, that came out. And then after that, I probably would have said Monster Hunter, that came out. Then probably Split Fiction, that's out. I think right now, what I'm most excited for / intrigued by is the new Mafia game. I'm very excited for that because I love Mafia. And this is like the first time since the definitive edition that Hangar 13 is coming out swinging. They're making it linear. So it's not going to be like a faux open world thing. They're actually like focused on the story. That seems really exciting to me. So I'm excited to see what they do there. Claire Obscura looks awesome. Death Stranding 2 looks awesome. We'll see. Like Crab Mafia 3. Yeah, Mafia 3 was... I mean, that was a dumpster fire. That was like 2016, and then in 2020, I think, they did Mafia Definitive Edition after a bunch of restructurings. And if you've not tried Mafia Definitive Edition, you should. Because however much faith you lost in them after Mafia 3, justifiably so, because it was atrocious, and just super broken, play Definitive Edition, and you're going to go, oh, they still got it. Okay. So try Definitive Edition if you haven't already. You can get it on sale all the time. I think it's even part of like Game Pass, maybe. Go check it out. It's so good. So good. Definitive Edition was buggy. I mean, maybe on some platform. I don't know. I haven't had any problems. I was playing it like yesterday. So good, dude. So good. Crimson Desert's still coming. Yeah, if it comes out this year. I'm hopeful for that one too. Really hopeful. Another Crab's Treasure. Oh, I've never tried it. Never tried it. Oh, it's broken on PS5 Pro. Really, Ronan? I didn't know that. Let's see. Like Mafia 3 on release? No, Mafia 3 at release that was another animal entirely. 3, that old Kroby Cat video, it's legendary. I remember for years I couldn't play the game past like this opening section because the game would crash whenever you tried to like open the back doors of the truck. Yeah, this was Mafia 3 at launch. It was just a broken dumpster fire. I played it after they patched it, and honestly, it's not, at this point, it's not bad. Like it's really, really repetitive. It's a game that I think really should not have been open world, which is why I'm glad to see that they're going linear. Yeah, it's nowhere near, like this anymore, but you can have a good time with it. It's just not great. They have a bunch of little things where like they really pushed it to like, oh, you've got to clear out these locations. You got to go here. You got to bring the whatever reputation up, standard open world stuff from like 2015, 2016. And it's just really repetitive. But if you can get past it, I think the story's interesting. It's always been the strength of the Mafia series is the stories. But Mafia 3, this is the other thing about this that's really heartbreaking, and I've talked about this before. And it's that, funnily enough, I think it was in Quebec when we were at that AC Shadows preview event. I was talking to some of the AC Shadows developers, and somehow the topic of Mafia 3 came up. Because I think I was asking them, like, what are they looking forward to this year? And they're like, oh, Mafia, we're looking forward to that. And I brought up Mafia 3, and they had forgotten this, but basically in Mafia 3, because of the setting, they have a bunch of Elvis music in it, like old school Elvis music that would have been popular at the time, even though this is like a fictionalized version of New Orleans. But they didn't update, like, I think 2021 after 5 years, because all of the licensing for the Elvis music expired. So they updated the game and stripped all that music out. So the version of Mafia 3 you play today, if you buy the game today, is different from the version that launched, which in some cases is good, as you can see. But you also miss out on all of the music, all of like the turn the radio on and just vibe to Elvis while driving through the streets. You miss out on all of that, and it's really too bad. It's really, really too bad, because that was one of the strengths of Mafia 3, was just vibing to the music while you drive around to quest objectives and stuff. But what are you going to do? Let's see. Do you think games are unoptimized at launch on purpose for money reasons? I mean, it's literally because if they delay the game to polish it, that will cost them money. And if they think they can get away with pushing it out now, they will. So yeah, to a certain extent, it's on purpose. Yes. They're just, and you saw it with like, with Monster Hunter Wilds, they were like, can we get away with it? Yep. Okay, let's do it. And they got away with it. People still bought it in droves. So it just is what it is. Same with Star Wars Jedi Survivor. They knew they could get away with it, even though it was not ready and super broken. And they put it out. People still bought it. And so, of course, they're going to keep doing that. But, okay. I'm gonna boycott Tomb Raider if they make me play as a woman. Based. Yeah, these are the types of guys that would freak out.
Robert Connor donated $15 through Super Chat. I know a lot of people have scoffed at a Game of Thrones game, but I would love a Crusader Kings, Total War style game.
Yeah, like with a lot of slow-moving political, like diplomatic stuff. I could see that being kind of fun. I think there's the potential for that. The question is, like, does the Game of Thrones brand have enough carrying power nowadays? I'm not sure. Let's see. I don't think any devs want to push their game out before it's polished and optimized, but a lot of the time the pressure from money/publishing people ultimately wins out and forces their hand. Well, exactly. Like you watch any of these documentaries on game development, or like the behind the scenes of making games, and it's always tragic seeing the devs being like, we need more time. We need more time, please. And the publisher's like, nah, it is what it is. We already bought the TV commercials. We bought the time slots. What are we supposed to do? Come on, man, put it out. And it's too bad, but that's ultimately what forces it. It's the executives that have the final say. And that's the thing, is like the AC Shadows devs, they were saying that they were very thankful that they got the time. When I went to the studio in January for that preview event, they were all like, I asked one of them at like the brunch thing they had. I was like, so how are you guys feeling? Was it nice to get the delay? And I got that, the kind of, they couldn't say exactly, but it was the, we're very happy with the new release date. That kind of reaction. So I think that, when the executives finally wake up and are like, oh, we should give them time, we should let them work on it, you see the devs just so thankful, and they get to put out the game that they are really, really proud of. It's just, unfortunately, it takes like a Star Wars Outlaws flop for the executives to wake up and be like, oh, we should give them time. It's unfortunate that it takes all of that, but that's just how it is. Also, shout out, that's the actual Cory Barlog, it seems. So shout out Cory. That's crazy. Glad to have you, my friend. Good to see you. I'd like to see an Until Dawn Detroit type game. Oh, it scrolled too fast. But it's The Thing from John. Okay, for a second, when I read The Thing, I thought you said The Room, and I was like, an Until Dawn / Detroit Become Human game, but The Room said. Actually, I'd play the crap out of that, dude. If they actually got Tommy Wiseau to voice act in it, dude. We need to do this now. One of my friends actually just got to go see. They went to like a live thing of The Room at like a local theater called the Lyric in Fort Collins, Colorado, and it had Mark. I forget his actual name, the actual actor's name, but the guy that played Mark, he was there. He like tours the country and does these things. And yeah, he said it was like one of the craziest experiences ever to like be in the room. Everybody throws spoons whenever like the painting with the spoon went up. It's very fun. I kind of wish I had gone. But anyway, back to your actual message. It's The Thing from John Carpenter. All the best possibilities and endings. Directive A20 looks cool. Yeah, dude, I love those Detroit Become Human, choose your own adventure kind of games. I know some people don't, but I thought Detroit was, save for a couple of branches where it got like kind of cringy with like the robots singing Kumbaya a cappella. I thought Detroit Become Human was brilliant. I mean, brilliant. I hope people give that game a chance, because a couple of those clips went viral of like the robots holding hands and singing, and like I get it, it's pretty cringy, but and like some of the analogies were really heavy-handed. Let's be honest. Like we all understood what they were doing. They didn't have to like literally shove the robots into like these chambers to be whatever they said, decommissioned or whatever. Like we understood what you were doing, but it's a little heavy-handed. But still, Detroit Become Human is brilliant. It's crazy. It's just crazy. Let's see. What's your opinion on Beyond Good and Evil 2? I mean, I don't think anybody knows what it is. Like the tech demo they did back in 2017 was super impressive, especially for the time. Like it was very, very impressive, but I don't know if it still has like a full team behind it. I don't know if it's just 5 people working on it. But some of the tech demos they showed were super impressive. It's just nothing else has been shown. Like E3 2017, going on 8 years ago, they showed this demo, which was super impressive. Again, like going from planet surface, let's see right here, going from planet surface, scrolling out and showing the entire planet, the whole planet simulated. And then they have it also simulated with other planets that are orbiting, the light diffraction through the atmosphere. And again, this was running in 2017 in real time. This ain't no Starfield stuff. I mean, this is crazy what they're doing here. 8 years ago on PS4 and Xbox One grade hardware. Like, that's insane. But we've seen nothing since then. Like, it's just, and then look how quickly he snapped back to the player character. Like, it's insane. It's wild. Streaming that level of data in and out is ridiculous. But we've seen like nothing. So this is cool, but this does not make a great game by itself. Like, you have to have more than this. And it just seems for whatever reason, they've been struggling to figure out what the game is. Like, they have amazing tech for it, as you can see, but where's the rest of it? Like, what's the next thing? I don't know. I've even asked people I know that work at Ubisoft, and like literally nobody knows. Everyone's like, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure who's working on it. Like, you'd think that, like, oh yeah, that's the team over there, but like nobody knows where it is. It's like the bizarre, like, you know, that uncle that nobody's ever heard from, or nobody hears from for like 5, 6, 7, 8 years at a time. And it's just like, what is Uncle John up to? I don't know. I haven't heard from him in ages. Who knows? Hopefully he comes back one day. Hope he's okay. Nobody knows anything though. It's crazy. Ubisoft Montpellier is still working on it. I mean, at some point, dude, we are approaching 20 years since the announcement. Like, at some point, somebody's got to decide, like, are we actually doing this, or should we just move on? It's been going on 20 years. 2008 is when it was first revealed, I'm pretty sure. That's insane. That's crazy, dude. Like, I'm pretty sure it was revealed. Let me see. Hold on. Let me try to find the original trailer. Beyond Good and Evil 2 announcement. I think it was like E3 2008. Yeah, this was re-uploaded in 2016. But I think it was the E3 2008. This was announced before Obama was sworn in as president. Like, George Bush was still president of the US when this trailer was dropped. That's how long ago we're talking. Like, it's crazy, dude. So if that ever sees the light of day, it'll be remarkable. I mean, it'll be crazy. So it's Obama's fault. So what you're saying is, okay, let's talk about this. Let's talk about some CDPR goodness. Okay, let's get into it. New segment. So, I've told you guys before, I love following these earnings calls. I eat them up because we not just find out like the nitty gritty finance details, which I love, but we also get to hear some of the rumblings and insinuations as to what they're working on next. They've done an earnings, so they've did the earnings call. They announced and disclosed how much money they brought in, how many copies they sold, for example. They had 30 million copies sold as of November 2024 of Cyberpunk, 8 million copies of the Phantom Liberty expansion as well. They took in over $100 million in profit, pure profit, which is crazy. They're just rocking and rolling. I mean, I think it marks the most successful quarter without a release in company history. They just seeing huge returns on these investments. And it goes to show you, when you polish up and fix the game that that people were interested in and that was kind of rushed out, but you make it what you promised and then you deliver a phenomenal expansion, people will reward you by buying it. It's crazy. Imagine that. Cami did a little summarization. Witcher 4 is in full production. Project Orion, which is the sequel to Cyberpunk, and Witcher 1 Remake are in the concept stages. So I was hoping that the Witcher 1 Remake would be further along. It appears they're not. The remake is being done by the team that did the Thaumaturge, which is a really interesting kind of a top-down isometric. I don't think it's technically isometric, but it's a top-down RPG that's actually pretty interesting and unique. But it's still in the concept stages, so it's still very early. But we got some specific numbers of employees working on it. Now, they show, for example, how many people were working on each project in October versus end of February. End of October, there were 400 people working on The Witcher 4. That went up to 411 in just a few months. Orion got 20 more people added to it. Project Sirius also got more people working on it. Project Hadar got, some people shuffled around. Shared services got shifted around, and then other projects, there's a few people. But you can see they've added another 57 employees on these projects. One of the other things they announced, do I have the screenshot of it? I think I closed it accidentally. They are partnering with the behemoth Scopely for a game based on their IP. If you don't know Scopely, these are like the guys that print money with mobile games. All of those games like WWE Champions, for example, Scopely makes them. They print money. So they're probably going to do, I don't know if it's going to be a Gwent thing or if it's going to be some Cyberpunk specific game. Who knows? But they've partnered with them, and I can understand why. I mean, clearly Scopely knows how to print money with their mobile games, but I just personally think that Scopely tends to be a little bit predatory with how they do it. That's just me. But they've partnered with them. And beyond this, there are some other little tidbits. So, for example, Cyberpunk 2077, hit those targets. Cyberpunk 2077 platform splits for 2024 were 62% on on PC, 26% are on PlayStation, and 12% are on Xbox. 62% of players on PC. That's wild. I think that this is, though, something that we're seeing more and more, is that the PC market for a while was seen kind of as this more niche thing. And now it's clear a lot of companies are starting to shift and view it as, no, that's probably the future. Like, a lot of people are growing out of consoles and moving towards PCs, especially as like fidelity keeps getting cranked and people are kind of committing more to the gaming hobby and they're investing more money into it. Console, it's growing. Consoles are growing, but the PC market is growing way faster. And as you all know, I've said a bajillion times, in finance, with companies and corporations in general, growth is literally like the lifeblood that drives the dreams of champions. Okay. If you get that reference, put it in chat right now and we'll be best friends forever. Growth is what makes the numbers grow. Growth is what makes the numbers bigger. It's what keeps investors happy. And if you have growth, everything else kind of should, in theory, follow in line and keep on the right trajectory. When you see growth stagnate, you see the market plummet, because investors are buying in now with the hopes of bigger returns in the future. And if your market isn't growing, you either have to expand like your margins so that you get a bigger amount of profit on each dollar that it costs you to produce the product, or you got to find some other way of increasing how much money you're making, because nobody's really happy with a company that makes $100 this year, makes $100 next year, and $100 the year after that. Nobody really wants that. They want $100 this year, 110 next year, 120 next year. They need that to go up. And unless you have overall market growth, you have to find other ways of doing it, like, you know, trying to squeeze blood from a rock. You know, you got to find other ways to squeeze your customers dry. But by expanding and focusing on PC market share, on the part of third-party developers and publishers like CDPR or PlayStation, Xbox, I mean, that's a great way to do it, because for a long time they haven't really done that. But why can't they just make normal profit of a steady company? So there are some companies that do just kind of do the same thing year after year, and they don't really grow a ton. They're primarily like utilities companies that like, transport electricity, do water servicing, waste management, things like that. They don't really expand that much. They do technically grow, but they're not anywhere near as much as like tech. With like NVIDIA, the reason NVIDIA is valued so much is because the promise of growth is there. They're saying, oh no, in 10 years, AI is going to be even bigger. So we're going to be making even more chips. We're going to be bringing in even more hundreds of billions of dollars. So you get in now, you're going to get a piece of that growth. So there are companies that do it, that do just kind of stay on the flat, very slow and steady wins the race trajectory. They just don't tend to be valued super crazy high, because there's not the promise of future growth. So there's a place for that. But video games are I do think video games are a high growth market. They've been skyrocketing in popularity. It's much more normalized now to play video games compared to even like 20 years ago, when you were seen as like a dork and a nerd. Oh, you're playing video games, you know? But it's very interesting to see how all of these companies are now trying to find where the next area of growth is, and where they're going now, I think, is I think they are focused on the PC market, and you're going to see them trying to double down on like cloud infrastructure, stuff like that, subscription services and all that. But anyway, they, Michael, who is the co-CEO or joint CEO, I guess is the technical term, he went through a brief summary of their outlook and what they've got. So you can see in 2024, the consolidated sales revenues of CD Projekt Group reached 985 PLN, with nearly 470 PLN in net profit, which means that the group's net profitability during this period was approximately 48%, which is crazy. Both of our franchises wrapped up an excellent year. Naturally, the results of CD Projekt Group are primarily driven by the sales of Cyberpunk, the base game, along with its Phantom Liberty expansion. It generated nearly 600 million PLN in earnings. For its part, The Witcher 3, despite 10 years having passed since its release, continues to attract attention and produces a stable revenue stream. We are very satisfied with the fact, even in the absence of any major launch, the past year was the third best in the group's history in terms of net profit. They didn't release anything major, and yet it is the third best year in terms of profit for the company. That's crazy. That's crazy. In November, cumulative sales of Cyberpunk topped 30 million copies, while the Phantom Liberty expansion had sold over 8 million copies. In the past year, Cyberpunk 2077 also received numerous awards, including a prestigious BAFTA award in the Best Evolving Game category, presented to games with exceptional post-release support by the dev team. This year, this is crazy. This year, Cyberpunk 2077 Ultimate Edition will appear on Mac OS. Mac OS, wow. There's no way it runs super well, right? Like, it's got to run at like medium low settings at 30 frames. I've tried playing games on like my MacBook Pro, and it's like, I think Baldur's Gate 3 is on there, and I've tried playing it on there. It's not quite there. And I think it's such a miss. Like Apple, if they really focused on it and made it a priority, I think, you know, it could really help them. Because one of the primary reasons I see like younger people around my age not buying Macs is because they want to play games, and they can't play those games on Mac, or at least not well. So they go PC instead. I think if they put effort into supporting games on Mac, like a lot more effort, I think it could really like be a slam dunk for them. But anyway, allowing us to reach a new group of gamers and further expand the Night City community. We're also working to expand the Cyberpunk universe. In 2024, we announced a new animation project, which is currently under development and which will be released on Netflix. And that's just some of what we have in store. In late 2024, CD Projekt Red entered a new phase of development on the first installment in the new Witcher saga. I'm excited. In November, excuse me. In November, The Witcher 4, previously known as Project Polaris, entered full-scale production. Its cinematic trailer, unveiled at the Game Awards in December, met with enthusiastic reception on the part of gamers. The upcoming release dominated global media headlines, with particular attention devoted to Ciri, who had been revealed as the new main protagonist. The new main. Maybe this is just a translation thing, or maybe I'm reading into it. New main protagonist makes me think there's multiple protagonists. And she's the main one. Maybe they just mean the new protagonist, but that makes me think there might be, it might just be a translation thing. You got to be careful with these things because, I saw a TikTok of a lady that was like, what English would sound like if it were structured like French. And so she just translated stuff from French directly to English, but didn't move the words around. And dude, it was confusing as hell. All of you French speakers out there, I'm so sorry. It's got to be tough to decipher that stuff because all the words are like not in the order you would think. It's very confusing. I'm sure they say the same thing about English, but yeah, sometimes with translations, you can get into trouble. The group's strong financial performance means that despite record expenditures on development projects and 100 million PLN dividend, the group's balance of financial reserves increased by over 160 million PLN over the last year, which is fantastic. That's fantastic. Oh, and look, I found a virgin. I found one in the wild. Wow. That's crazy. Who'd have thunk it? I've learned the one thing that totally disarms and really pisses off like those types is calling them virgins. They lose it, dude. It's quite funny. It's quite funny. And it's pretty funny. So continuing on with this, somewhat as expected, Last Known Meal took this screenshot. CDPR confirmed that The Witcher 4 will come out after 2026. My guess would be late 2027, maybe even pushing into 2028, especially if we align it with their net profit goals. But so far, this is just speculation, nothing else concrete after it was said. They basically, show their projections for what they expect to book, what they expect to bring in. This is why we knew for a long time that like GTA 6 was coming in this period, because they were like, yeah, we're going to bring in $2 extra billion. You know why.
Kirby Shaw donated $19.99 through Super Chat.
Thank you.
Finally upgraded to a PS5 Pro, and I've gotta say I'm super impressed. However, I'm a little unclear on something. Is PSSR going to be updated to FSR4 via software update?
It stopped reading. Or will it be implemented only as PS6? I think what they've said is that it will be, I think the exact verbiage was, our next big update to PSSR will be on the level of FSR4 or something like that. I wonder if I can find, re-implemented. Hold on. Here's the article. Mark Cerny, FSR4 for the PS5 Pro is the, quote, next evolution of PSSR. It's the first result of AMD and Sony's Project Amethyst collaboration. So the neural network and training recipe in FSR4's upscaler are the first results of the Amethyst collaboration, and results are excellent. It's a more advanced approach. We can exceed the crispness of PSSR. I'm very proud of the work of the joint team. So let's see. Our focus for 2025 is working with the developers to integrate PSSR into their titles. In parallel, though, we have already started to implement the new neural network on PS5 Pro. Our target is to have something very similar to FSR4's upscaler available on PS5 Pro for 2026 titles as the next evolution of PSSR. It should take the same inputs to produce essentially the same outputs. Doing that implementation is rather ambitious and time-consuming, which is why you haven't already seen this new upscaler on PS5 Pro. So It's going to come to PS5 Pro. They're saying that they're going to have something very similar to FSR4, but not FSR4. So it's going to be their own thing, but it's going to be the same. So whatever that means. If the performance is similar, if the quality is similar, then okay, cool. But I don't think they're going to call it FSR4. It'll be Pisser Extreme or whatever they call it. I'm sorry. They had to know. PSSR, people are going to call it Piss. It's right there. They had to know. And if they didn't, I mean, what are we doing? Like, you called it PSSR. People are going to call it Pisser. I hate to tell you. It's just, you can't toss that softball up for me and not expect me to hit it out of the park, you know? Bouchard, thank you for that super chat. Hey, Luke, I'm 100% sure that GTA 6 will be delayed because they haven't started marketing the game yet. It will probably come out late 2026. I don't know, all the people with insider knowledge, and pretty good track records like Jason Schreier are saying that it's still on track. Like, the people they're talking to that are working on the game say, no, we're still on track for late 2025. The thing is, all of the normal rules that apply to like video game marketing don't really apply to GTA 6. They can pump it out in 3 months if they want. I think they could do a 3-month marketing push for it and be totally fine. It will still sell billions of dollars worth. Like they just, anything where it's like, well, normally we see 6-month marketing cycles. Normally we see a year of marketing cycles. In the past, Rockstar did a 1.5 to 2-year marketing cycle. None of that really applies because GTA 6 is like the exception. It's not even like exceptional. It's just the ultimate exception. There has never been a game on this scale with this level of hype and interest in it. There just hasn't been. Like, you can try to point to any other massive game and just nothing is close. So it's I don't, I've given up trying to figure out what their strategy is, because whatever it is going to be unique for GTA 6. I think it's going to be much more condensed. I think it's going to be much more secretive than they've previously been, because I don't think they need to do anything more than that. I don't think, like, I'd be shocked if they do crossovers or if they do like standard marketing to YouTubers and streamers. I think what they probably do is they get like Kai Cenat will do a stream, or he's in a commercial or something. They'll get iShowSpeed to do a commercial. They'll hire Tom Brady to do something. Like, I think they're going to do a few big ticket items, but I don't think they're going to be doing like a ground game with like smaller YouTubers and streamers. You know, I just think they're going to go very unique. It's going to be very different. Probably a big TV marketing push. I do think that'll happen. Big viral one, but I don't think they're going to go to smaller creators because I don't think they want to risk leaks or anything like that. Doesn't Rockstar usually like to avoid big names? I mean, it's kind of hard to say because they only do like, you know, one game a decade, but or like 2 games a decade, I guess. But I'm not totally sure. I mean, that's the thing is like I can guess that they're gonna do like a few big ticket items, but then again, they might just be like, nope, here's a trailer, comes out on this date. We'll put some TV commercials up and some, you know, pre-rolls on YouTube, and just to remind people that it's coming. Like they could literally do zero marketing and I still think it would sell billions. You know, the word of mouth alone is going to be insane. It's going to be ridiculous. Thoughts of PS5 Pro now that it's been out? I think it's making more and more sense the more time goes by. Like AC Shadows, yeah, that's without a doubt best on PS5 Pro. Not even close. All I said was at launch, the PS5 Pro I don't think made sense for most people, but I was like, yeah, late, you know, middle of 2025, late 2025, it probably makes sense to get. Just fall of 2024 didn't really make sense because there was nothing to really utilize it. And now you're seeing games come out that are optimized for it, and so it becomes more compelling. So as time goes by, it becomes more reasonable purchase, I think. Thank you for the 2 also, Cameron, before that. Let me catch up on these, make sure I see all of them. Ernesto, thank you for the super chat. Thank you for that one. Did I miss any others? Luke, did you hear about the surprise Nintendo Switch Direct happening tomorrow morning? I think I've heard rumblings that they're going to do something, but I don't know if it's been confirmed or anything. We'll see. We'll see. But you're saying it's a Switch 1 Direct, so they're going to do like a Direct for the current Switch, and then in a week they're going to do another Direct for the Switch 2? Oh, it's confirmed already? It's OG Switch stuff. Oh. It seems a little weird to like a week before you reveal your new console, you're going to like drop a bunch of trailers for the old one. Okay. Maybe they have some cool stuff. Who knows? It's a very Nintendo thing. Yeah. It is kind of very Nintendo where it's just like, okay, well, weird, but okay. You probably have your reasons, whatever. Whatever, man. Do what you got to do. Close that. Okay. Okay. Mm-hmm. Oh, I thought that this was kind of cool. Hold on, let me pause this. I want to look at where's the full tech demo for Crimson Desert? Did somebody like combine all the clips together? Crimson Desert tech demo. I want to see that. Gameplay physics demo. Volumetric fog, ray tracing. Okay. Yeah, let's look at these. Okay. News. So, Crimson Desert. It's a game we've been keeping an eye on. This is like the game that we've said since the first trailer. Looks like, in some ways, too good to be true. Looks too good to be true. Which is a great problem to have. I mean, if you ever have a game that you're revealing to the public and people go, there's no way that's real. That's good. If you can deliver it. If you can't, you have a No Man's Sky situation. And then you're going to be, hurting. But if they can actually deliver on this, people will be thoroughly impressed. I really think so. So they've released a series of small clips and snippets showcasing the engine, cloth sim, hair sim, some of the physics stuff going on in the world. And, these are the types of things that some people just do not care about, which is okay. Like when people look at AC Shadows and they see like the particle sim with leaves blowing and whirling around boulders and rocks and stuff. I understand that some people are like, what's the point? How does that affect the game? Totally get it. I, for one, just love sim stuff in games. It helps me feel more immersed. It helps the world feel more real when I see the cloth blowing in the wind instead of just sitting there. But it does not a great game make. It just shows, hopefully, that the attention to detail has been put into these smaller details that make it all the better. Because I think with a lot of games, like, you get good gameplay, you get a good story, you get decent, or even really good graphics. That can get you to like the 9 out of 10 level. To get to the 10 out of 10 level takes the attention to detail. It takes the small stuff, the little bitty tweaks that really take it above and beyond. And when you see developers putting that effort in, I think it's great. Now, you run into trouble if you didn't get the core fundamentals good enough, because then it's like, yeah, you added these bells and whistles, but you didn't get the game running well. It's super buggy, or maybe it stutters constantly. One thing I fully expect for this is that I think this game is going to rely a lot on upscalers and stuff like DLSS, FSR, and I think you can already see some of the artifacting of that if you zoom in and you see some of the hashed, I think is what they call it, artifacting on certain areas where it's been trying to upscale, but it's also IGN footage, and IGN for years has had a problem with over compressing videos that they publish on their official page. I don't know why they still have this problem. I've made like 15 videos complaining about it, but they have 18 million subs, going on 19 million subs, and they still don't know how to properly like encode a video to not compress the crap out of it. It's just frustrating. But some of these things are not just compression artifacts like this. This is an actual ghosting artifact that you can see from the branch, the twig here. You see the lines that have echoed as it's gone by. That's this ghosting that's happening. You can see right there. That's an actual artifact of the upscalers, the temporal ones. So you just got to keep an eye out for that because it can affect overall image quality, especially if you're playing on a bigger display. But I love the attention to detail with this smaller stuff, and I think it shows that they are adding these bells and whistles if you're able to run it, which I appreciate. I hope the game still runs well, even if you turn this stuff off, or certainly if it's on. But I love the attention to detail with like the cloth blowing in the wind. Beyond that, they also showed some other little bells and whistles. So, for example, this is the shallow water video showcasing their tech for waves splashing up on rocks, and this is insane. So you can see it turned off versus turned on. This is ridiculous. Look at the water. It like it comes up here and then it trickles down. Hold on, go back. This is ridiculous. Like you can see the water splash up and then it actually comes down into this little crevice realistically. Like that's ridiculous. I don't know how many dozens of frames I have to sacrifice to get that running, but Jesus Christ, it looks good. Like, damn. Full water sim. Again, I understand, you know, I've said in a bunch of videos recently, I was like, I'll take physics sim, I'll take PhysX, I'll take destructible environments, I'll take realistic cloth sim, water sim, all that stuff. I'll take that over ray tracing any day. I understand some people were like, Luke, I'm a graphics engineer. Part of the problem is that you can't do a lot of this stuff unless you have ray tracing. And I get that, you know, I get it. I'm mainly just whining. But I understand that the more dynamics you have, the less baking you can do. And so you need to add in like more dynamic rendering systems and techniques. So I get that. But I think all I'm doing is being a whiny little bitch. But I'm also just saying I love dynamics. I don't need like full resolution ray traced reflections if you can deliver this type of sim. You know, this I'm all about, especially because you see what it looks like in a kind of modern standard game with just a basic water shader over the top of it. And then they show the simulated one. And dude, it's a small detail. Again, will this make the game good if it's otherwise okay? No. But if the game is good and you add this, it can take it to great. You know, I love this little attention to detail stuff. And it gets you excited, you know, it gets you like, ooh, what are they doing now? Wow. Two mice. Look at this. They also showcase some ray tracing stuff. And you can see the sort of like ray tracing off. They pan over to it on. Again, just much more realistic lighting. This is something we also saw in AC Shadows. Some people thought it was like a bug because they're like, it makes the light look totally different. Like the actual temperature of the light inside a building or a room will totally change. It's like, yeah, because it's more realistic. It's bouncing, you know, when the light bounces off of something brown, it bounces off brown. Like it actually absorbs all of the wavelengths of light that are not brown, and then it reflects that back out, which is why, you know, you shine a spotlight on a big red Yeti thermos, the light that reflects off of it will come off red. But that's something you can't really do with more traditional like rasterized lighting techniques. Whereas if you can, unless you like do crazy baking and stuff, but then, you know, there's other shortcomings. But with ray tracing stuff, you can actually do that. The other thing ray tracing allows you to do are these shadows. So you can see here, no shadows cast because the light is supposedly coming from this lamp right here. But it's just illuminating. You don't see anything else. But the light is coming from this lamp. You turn on ray tracing and you get the shadows casting realistically in the room. Ray tracing off, and then they're going to turn it on. Just more realistic. Now there's still, you know, other things. Again, my only real concern with Crimson Desert is performance, because I feel like we see a lot of artifacting. If I just zoom in here, in case you're watching on your phone, you might not be able to see. But we see a lot of artifacting, you know, this sort of pixel jumping and flickering that happens. This is with ray tracing turned off, and then you turn it on. There's still a little bit, because I think the flames are flickering and stuff, but you do see some artifacting, and that is something that doesn't bother some people, but it can get distracting. And I would like it if they could fix it, you know, if they could get it working a little more smoothly. But they're adding in a lot of bells and whistles, which I hope shows that they are confident about everything else. But yeah, especially up here, you look up in the top, the difference in the color temperature of the light. It's all just totally different. So again, Crimson Desert, I think, looks very impressive. This is the other one, time of day time-lapse video. So they're just going to cycle it forward with the cloud sim, the lighting, shifting and everything. I think this could be one of the, maybe not surprise hits, because I think a lot of people expect it to be really impressive, but I'm keeping an eye on this one, because I think that this could be really impressive. I do think it has the potential to maybe be a little bloated, because again, these guys are the same ones that did Black Desert Online. So they do have a history of making big games, but their last one was like an MMO. So, you know, converting from MMO play styles to single player play styles can sometimes be difficult, just because single player players tend to be more focused on, I don't know, I think you have to change the pace of gameplay a little bit more. But I mean, this looks, yeah, you know, slap it with NVIDIA's DLSS, easy fix. Yeah, just have them turn on frame generation. It'll be fine. So I think that one's going to be cool. I've talked to a few people. I think Joraptors played it. Didn't he play it at Gamescom, I think? So I've talked to people who have played it, and they said that it's pretty impressive. This is like volumetric fog and fluid simulation. So you can see as he dodges around, the fog shifts with him. This is something they had back going to like Arkham City. Batman Arkham City and Batman Arkham Knight had that same fog sim. And it was part of like the PhysX kit of NVIDIA, like proprietary stuff. Or maybe I'm thinking of Batman Arkham Origins. I think Origins had it. But it kind of fell off the face of the earth. They stopped doing it for a long time. But I think it's so cool. I love this kind of thing. But everybody I've spoken to said, no, it plays really well. It plays really well. They were like, I'm still kind of not sold on the story. That was one thing I heard, because it does seem like it's very, like, I don't know, it's a little convoluted. It's very verbose, and I think some people are iffy on the story, and I still don't really know what it's about, but I think it looks promising. Yeah, you need a 6090. Yeah, of which there will be 3 made, and they will each be $30,000 from scalpers. But we'll keep an eye on it, because I'm excited for that one. I hope we hear more. Maybe this summer at Summer Games Fest we hear more. Maybe we see that. I don't know. It'd be super cool if they had it as a demo at Summer Games Fest. I think it was there last year, but me and my team, we forgot to request access to it. We were kind of trying to fill out our schedule at the last possible minute, and somehow we got access to Elden Ring's DLC when very few people got access to that. But yeah, missed out on Crimson Desert. Not this year, though. Not this year.
Fune Monk donated $9.99 through Super Chat. Did you see the Elder Scrolls 6 gameplay video leak from 4chan? Any thoughts? Or any general S6 takes, thoughts?
I have not. There was a leak. There was a leak for Elder Scrolls 6. It was fake. I mean, if it's on 4chan immediately, I'm like, but guys, you don't understand. His dad works at Rockstar. No, I think Again, I've said it a bajillion times, so I won't dwell on it too long, but just to answer the super chat, because it's a very generous $10 super chat. I appreciate you. Thank you. I think Elder Scrolls 6, especially seeing that Witcher 4 now is not coming out until at least 2027. I think it's very likely that Elder Scrolls 6 launches next to The Witcher 4, similar to Fallout 4 next to The Witcher 3. And so the comparisons are going to be made ad nauseum, certainly. But I think there's going to be, I think if they return to like basics and fundamentals and they just focus on doing what Bethesda does well, I think Elder Scrolls 6 could be really good. My fear for them is just that, like, Starfield was them literally acknowledging what they did well, which was handcrafted environments, environmental storytelling. That's what BGS is really good at. And then with Starfield, they did the literal opposite, and they moved to just procedural environments, procedural questing, procedural everything. And it literally stripped the soul out of what they're really, really good at. And I thought it was just a tragic waste, because like they're really good at X and they decided to try and intentionally do Y instead. And I just don't think it worked. I think it didn't click together the way they were hoping. Because I don't think you can procedurally do what they were so good at. And I think they learned that the hard way. At least I hope they did. So I hope that they focus on those handcrafted environments again, instead of just procedural stuff. But I do think there's a real possibility that Elder Scrolls 6 tries to utilize the procedural tech of Starfield in a way that maybe is not ideal in my view. Because this is what they tend to do, is they tend to do what they did last game. They add on a couple new gears, new bells and whistles, and then that's the new package. And then the next game, they take that package, add in a few bells and whistles, and then release that. And then the next game, they take that package and they add in a few bells and whistles, but they just build on all of it. And that's why I think like we'll see a ship customization, or maybe like a castle building system in Elder Scrolls 6, where you actually have a castle and you build it out. And it's like your fortress where all of your, like, think AC Shadows with the settlement. I think they're going to have something like that. And with the procedural stuff, they built out this crazy elaborate procedural generation system for Starfield. Do you really think that they just let that sit on the sidelines? I don't think so. I think they find a way to use it. And I think it's probably like enter into the scroll rifts. And throughout the world, there are these rifts in, pillars of light that are scattered throughout the map. And you go inside and it leads you to a procedurally generated environment that has procedurally generated POIs, and you go collect loot there. There are ways they could implement it that's cool and that I think could work if they still do like what they're really good at.
Chris Bar 77 donated $9.99 through Super Chat. Alvo listens to you on my way to work. Just wondering if anyone else is worried about GTA 6 not being as good, since a lot of the OGs who've worked there since the start left in 2020 or so.
Thoughts? Thank you for the 10. First of all, super generous. Thank you. Am I worried about the quality of it? Personally, not. People literally said the same thing about Red Dead 2, and Red Dead 2 was somehow even better than people expected. So, as of right now, Rockstar's never given us a reason to doubt them. Maybe the day comes, hopefully not, knock on wood, but as of right now, there's no reason to doubt their abilities. It's why I used to give people a lot of crap for like falling for the Cyberpunk 2077 hype and stuff. But looking back on it, I'm like, no, they were deceived. They were lied to, told the game is not going to be X, and it was X. They were told, no, we're going to fix these problems before launch. When they were playing the game at previews, they were like, are these bugs going to be there at launch? And they said, no, they're going to be fixed. And that wasn't true. And so I'm more understanding, I think, of some of those things nowadays, because I don't think it's like the consumer's fault if they're deceived. In the case of this, like I see no reason to doubt Rockstar, and so I think the quality is likely to be very, very high, as it has always been for them. If it ends up being a broken mess, then we'll deal with that at that point. But I don't think I think the danger is for people to grow cynical instead of skeptical. All skepticism is not believing X until there's sufficient evidence to justify belief in X. So you don't believe that there's massive tunnels under the pyramids until there's sufficient evidence to demonstrate that point. Once there is, then you can believe it. But you don't accept that claim until there's sufficient evidence. And if the claim is GTA 6 is not going to be good, there needs to be evidence for that, because there's a lot of evidence that says they've got a phenomenal track record. They've like never missed, they've got all these talented people working there. They've had years and years and years to work on it. They have a multi-billion-dollar budget. It's there's plenty of stuff to point to and to be excited by. So I understand in the modern industry people feeling cynical. I can definitely understand why, given some of the recent releases and the industry movements and stuff. But in the case of GTA 6, I see no reason to be cynical. You should be skeptical with everything in life, but skepticism is a means to an end, and the means, the end is whether you accept or do not accept a certain claim. And in the case of GTA 6, I think right now, if the claim is it's going to be a high quality release, I think there's lots of evidence to point to that. And there's not much evidence to point to the counter. Sumaya, yeah, I appreciate you with the super chats. We just give priority to the $10 ones, so yeah, I'm sure you get it. But I will catch up on these. Let me see. Let's see. Any thoughts about it? Oh yeah, we talked about that one. GTA Christopher, thank you for the 5. GTA 6 will reach James Cameron levels and sell 30 to 40 million copies within a month of release and 50 within 3 months. You might not be off on that. It's going to be crazy. I've said, again, mark my prediction. I think there's going to be like internet outages. There will be a quantifiable drop in productivity worldwide at a lot of these companies that employ a lot of specifically young men. I think it's going to be like a major issue where stores like Best Buy, nobody's going to show up to work. People ask for it off. They don't get it approved because everybody else already asked for it off, and they're just not going to show up to work on launch day. Like, it's going to be a whole thing. Just telling you now. Let's see. I'm looking. Sumaya, I'm looking. Oh yeah, weird. Did it read this one up? I don't know why I didn't see that. Fun fact, this is from Samaya. Again, thank you. Very generous super chat. Fun fact, in Metaphor, if you remember, there was a tribe of Mustari wearing straw baskets. They were inspired by Kamusu priests in Japan. Only found this out thanks to the Cultural Discovery Codex in Shadows. Yeah, I honestly initially was not sold on the the Discovery Codex thing they did in Shadows, because they used to do the Discovery Tour where they would actually like guide you through like the environment, like with AC Origins, where you actually go and they show you the pyramids, they show you who built them, and they take you to Alexandria, show you that. And within Shadows, they dropped that and replaced it with this like Discovery Codex thing, which is you go throughout the world and you focus on these little orbs, and then it unlocks a page in the codex basically that you can pull up to understand, like, oh, I'm looking at these fields, I can discover this. Oh, let me see, this tells me, okay, this was by this tribe, this was in this area of Japan, they grew this type of plant here, and you learn about it. I think I like it. I still like the Discovery Tour mode, don't get me wrong, but I like this because it's more involved and people are more likely to engage with it than the Discovery mode, because a lot of people just never even booted into the Discovery Tour thing at all. Whereas with this, they actually have the chance to experience it within much, like more dynamically while they're exploring and playing the actual game. You think they added Discovery Tour post-launch? Maybe. I think it's also harder with this version of Japan. Like with AC Origins, it's pretty easy. You just do, here's the Giza Plateau, here's the Sphinx, here's Alexandria, here's Thebes, here's the Valley of the Kings, here's the, like, there are some like very notable, recognizable landmarks. Whereas in Japan, like, okay, here's Kyoto, and then here's Here's like the docks and here's this farming area. I think it's a little harder to pull off, but who knows? Maybe they do. Let's see. I think I caught up. Let's see. Limit Breaks. I've been playing Mafia 2 Remastered. Love the unapologetic themes and dialogue of the Mafia series and hope that the PC doesn't affect the new game's writing. TC. I'm not sure what I'm not sure what TC means. Yeah, Mafia 2. I love Mafia 2. And again, if you've not played Mafia, play the definitive edition and then roll right into Mafia 2. I'm not going to explain why specifically, but I'm telling you, there are some amazing ties, I'll just say, that will break your brain. Please, you will thank me. You will thank me. Mafia Definitive Edition, go straight into Mafia 2. So good. So good. TC, take care. Oh, that makes sense. That makes sense. That checks out. Tons of Japanese landmarks. Yeah, I just mean like, I think the Discovery Tour, I don't know if you ever tried it, but like the way that they try to set it up is, I think sort of like a classroom setting, where it's very involved. So like with the Pyramid Discovery Tour, they wanted you to like go into the pyramid, explore it. And I think they could pull it off with AC Shadows, but my hunch is that they just had player numbers and data that just showed like basically nobody was ever messing with it. So they're like, it's not worth the trouble. Which I mean, if nobody's using it, I still think it's a noble thing to do, because I saw, articles of people using it in schools when they were teaching in like a class about ancient Egypt. The teacher would bring in their gaming laptop and play AC Shadows and show them the Discovery Tour and stuff. So I do think that there's use for it and it has value, but I also understand maybe it wasn't that practical. If they're like, it costs X many dollars to do and barely anybody's using it, I don't know. I thought it was good. I'd like it if they went back to it.
Mikey donated $9.99 through Super Chat.
Thank you.
Have you ever wanted to play through games live for your audience, or do you prefer to discuss and review them only?
So we've tried doing gameplay sessions. There's kind of two pieces to it. For one, a lot of the games that I'm playing are for like reviews. And because we're playing them during the embargo period, I can't obviously play them on stream because it's like they're under embargo. So I can't show them to people. And so there's that, where a lot of those games, even if I'm playing a game right now and I'm under embargo, I can't tell you about it. So I'm like, yeah, I'm playing something, so that's one piece of it. The other piece is we've done gameplay streams and stuff. And for us, the data is just kind of clear. Like, we might be able to hold 800-900 viewers when we're playing a game, just maybe we boot up Baldur's Gate or whatever, God of War or whatever it is. But we can hold across, Twitch and YouTube, we can hold like 1,500 people if we're doing kind of more of a just chatting, looking at gaming news stories, doing segments, which we can then turn into live channel videos. So it kind of works out well. I do want to expand and do more streams on like Tuesdays, add in like a Thursday stream, in which case we would add in more gameplay and stuff like that. It just depends. It's tough with having two kids. Like, it kind of makes it a little more complicated. If it was just me and Nikki in the house, like, I'll just stream whenever, who cares? But part of it is like, okay, I've got to drop the, Lockie off at preschool, and then I'm going to take Ori. He's going to hang out with Nana today. And so he goes over, hangs out with Nana. And then I race back and I start the stream. And then, Nikki goes and picks the boys up, and then we come back together. But we like to do evening walks where we walk around the neighborhood for like an hour, get some exercise that way. And I don't want to miss that. So I can't really stream past this time. So there's just, a lot of things. My ultimate priority, of course, is the family. And so if I don't get to stream on Tuesdays, but I get to spend more time with the family, then so be it. Even if that leaves money on the table, you know. Your kid's name is Ori. It's Orion, but yeah, he goes by Ori. Little Ori. Yeah. He's my little fella. GTA 6 is like drugs. It sells itself. Yeah, dude. It feels like there's a new witch hunt for W0KE, says Strider with 2. I think you're seeing a lot of... I think there's some people that are discussing it for cultural reasons, but then you're also seeing a lot of people that are just kind of
Charge
tired
donated
of it.
$10 through Super Chat. Your initial Baldur's Gate 3 review convinced me to buy the game, and it was one of best games I've ever played. Will you ever release a long-winded critique of the game? Or is the time no longer right?
Thank you, Charge, for the 10. Very generous. So of course I love Baldur's Gate. What's become clear, especially as I've done subsequent playthroughs and I've like put more time into the game, to do like a comprehensive critique would take so long and would take so much time and effort that it would probably be prohibitively expensive. I mean, it would probably mean that we drop most other things we're doing. So that just means, okay, well then the critique video would not be comprehensive. That's okay. Not all the videos and critiques I've done have been comprehensive. You know, some of them are more narrow and more focused, but it also means that I think it just means that we'd have to pick our battles, and then it's like, okay, so what are we going to critique? Are we going to critique the gameplay side of it? Well, in that case, we're critiquing the 5e D&D system, which they are not using for their next game. So already, like, it's not going to be very constructive because they're already moving on from it. So then we can critique the writing, we can critique the branching narratives and those types of things. But we just run into some difficulties with it where, like, the more time has gone by, the more I've come to appreciate how freaking crazy good and ambitious and huge that game is. It's much harder to break it down. And one of my goals with critiques as we do them is to offer what I hope is, you know, taken as constructive criticism for a lot of these games. So, you know, when I critique Starfield, I hope that, you know, that some of the critiques are taken and followed up on. You know, I critiqued KCD 1, and I had like actual messages from the team behind Kingdom Come Deliverance. And they said, yeah, we took the video, we shared it around the studio in the office. When I was in Quebec in January for AC Shadows, I was talking to the devs and like, yeah, we've seen your Valhalla thing. One of the game directors referenced the skill bush, like, and chuckled while looking at me about, you know, what they were doing in Shadows. He's like, yeah, we didn't want a skill bush here. And like nods to me. It's like they watch these videos, they watch and take the feedback. And I want to make sure that when we critique stuff, it's something that's actionable. And my fear with the Baldur's Gate one is just that I don't know how much of it would actually be actionable, because they've already said like they're moving on from Baldur's Gate. They're shifting completely. And so, but I mean, who knows? Maybe we give it 6 months and I'm going to play it again and I'm going to be eating it up and I'm just like, oh my God, I want more. Yeah. Hey, Luke, do you know the Rockstar Games patents for GTA 6? These patents will destroy the industry as we know it. One of these patents makes NPCs aware. Yeah, I remember seeing the story about it years ago, or maybe last year when they first patented it. They have a bunch of patents for different gameplay systems and different things that they have. My stance has been since the beginning, I think gameplay elements should not be patentable. I think the fact that the Nemesis system has been patented is like extremely shameful, and it's caused one of the most innovative gameplay systems in recent memory to be basically put on ice indefinitely until like 2036. So I just think the whole thing is ridiculous, and I don't think they should be able to do it, but it is well above my pay grade. So like I can complain about it, but there's literally nothing that I or anyone else can do about it. I don't even know who you would go to change how patents work. Like I don't think that's even Congress or the press. I have no idea where you would even go to change that. I have no idea. But I don't like it. I don't think you should be able to patent anything gameplay related. Let's see. You must have felt so proud to have your critiques recognized and used by those companies. Oh yeah, no, it means the world. I mean, it literally is like, so I'm sort of having an indirect effect on game. Like, it's the most humbling thing ever. I love it. But it also, you know, raises the standard and makes me really try, at least as best I can, to talk about games in as fair and genuine a way as possible. And sometimes, you know, it gets people coming at you and raving and freaking out. But it's, yeah, I mean, it's very humbling to hear that some amazingly talented people, way more talented than me, are at least even listening to some of the thoughts I have on games, which I appreciate, you know. It's the World Intellectual Property Organization, but the U.S. also has treaties for respecting other countries' patents. So Congress too. Jeez. So be a whole thing. Jesus. I can't believe no one did the Imagine Dragon meme with KCD. Well, now's the time. It's act of motivation to keep pushing your limits. Oh, well, yeah. I mean, it's also just, it's why it's always funny when people are like, you're just trying to hate on stuff or break stuff down. I'm like, well, pretty clearly, I think the devs disagree. Like, there were people on the AC subreddit, like I said earlier, who were saying that I was just like hating on Shadows a few weeks ago. And then the review comes out and they're like, oh, so like you thought it was pretty good. Okay, never mind. I'm like, the devs don't think I'm just hating. The devs are like, interesting. Okay. And they're still inviting me to events and asking me to review it. Like, they don't think that I'm just hating. And it's because like I try very hard to give reasons for why I don't like things and reasons why I do like things. And I try, at least whenever I critique something, to offer an alternative, what I would do differently. I don't just say I don't like Yasuke as a playable character but like I say, because he's not an assassin in an Assassin's Creed game, because of this gameplay system, because of that. Like, I try to actually explain why. And I think that's all you can really do at the end of the day. Like, critique stuff and explain why you're critiquing it and what your feelings are. That's all you can really do. Okay. Let's see. People think being critical is hating. Well, and I think it's just, there's unfortunately a lot of tribalism that happens with everything online, where there's, you know, you either are a fan of X or you are a hater of X. And that's not how it works. Like, I made a video about like Starfield 6 months ago or a year ago, whatever it was. And at one point I just kind of like snapped a little bit, and I was like, people ask, Luke, why are you making another video on Starfield? And I was like, because I'm a fan, dumbass. Like, because I want Bethesda to go back to when they were awesome. I want Bethesda to figure it out. I feel like them doubling down on the things they're not good at and ignoring the things they are, like, I think them doubling down on the things they're not good at and ignoring the things they are good at does not help them be a better developer. And I don't think coddling them makes them a better developer, makes them put out better stuff. I think holding their feet to the fire and explaining, no, this was bad because of X, Y, and Z, that pushes them to be better and better. I don't think that, like, well, they tried really hard and I think it's the game of the generation, when it's pretty clearly not. I don't think that helps anybody. But, and like, same with Assassin's Creed. I grew up playing these games. I love Assassin's Creed as a franchise. It's part of my childhood. I hold it near and dear to my heart. I love Assassin's Creed. And I've been frustrated with lots of stuff that they've done, you know? But that's why I try to offer constructive criticism and critiques and stuff. And some people interpret that as just hating. But I think it's pretty clear the devs don't. The devs appreciate it. And the other thing to remember is a lot of the time, the devs aren't too thrilled with the direction they're forced to go in either. Like, the devs are gamers like you and me. They don't want to make an NFT spin-off game. Like, they're not thrilled about that. But they also have to pay their bills and provide for their family. And if that's what the boss says they have to do, that's what they have to do. You know? It's like... one of the most dangerous things I think with a lot of the gaming discourse nowadays is that it whittles like developers down into just the company logo. And that's how you get some of this insane stuff. Like the stories breaking where Ubisoft was having to hire like separate security teams, lawyers and stuff for the crazy amounts of harassment that AC Shadows devs were experiencing. One of the guys I talked to when I was there in January said that he had received dozens of death threats on all of his social media, threats to his wife, his family, because he was like a gameplay director on AC Shadows. That's insane. Nobody should ever have to deal with that. Like, that's crazy. These are video games we're talking about. Like, what are we doing? It's just madness. It's madness. Speaking of madness, I want to see what the count is up to. Dude, since early in the stream, there's like another 30,000 likes on it, dude. It's almost at 600,000 likes. Oh, God. What an absolute blowout. Dude, that's so funny. I cannot believe it. Jesus, man. Was he the monetizing director? No. I do find it amazing. That you like they have jobs where somebody works 24/7, like 365 on just how to monetize games. Like, I get it. There probably is a lot of work involved with that, I guess, especially when you consider pricing things internationally. But it still amazes me that somebody could have their entire job just be figuring out how to like price things. Yeah. This was cool. This is a work in progress clip on the right versus the final version from Split Fiction. So you can see when they were developing the game, on the right is what it looks like when they're building it early in production. And then the left is the final version. I just love this kind of work in progress stuff. I think it's so cool. Because it shows like when you're building the game, you have to have the vision. Because when you're working on it, it looks like the right. It doesn't look like it does in the final clip. That takes a long time to get there. But I just got spoiled. It's in the trailers. Calm down. You calm down. Elon's been quiet since. Yeah, dude. He didn't engage with the discourse anymore after that. It's kind of hard to argue when you get blown out that hard. Like, okay, there's some sentiment that people are just fed up with. Again, it just went up another 1,000. I cannot think of the last time I saw everybody come together and just be like, wow, get him. Like, it's pretty crazy. Who got blown? Yeah, you if you're lucky. Who knows? Anyway. Okay. Far Cry 7 New England and time limit thoughts. I think, again, maybe, where's the Far Cry 7 stuff? Far Cry 7. So it's been touched on a number of times. We looked at it back in December, the Far Cry 7 stuff, what they're going to change from the formula, Project Maverick and all of that stuff. But basically the expectation is that they're going to be moving away from the standard structure of Far Cry, and they're going to be shifting forward to a different approach. Basically, they're going to have like a time limit. So you need to save your family. As you can see, currently the current in-game timer stands at 72 hours or 24 hours in real time. But the timer can be paused when the player enters one of the safe houses. So when you play the game, like your family gets kidnapped basically, or friends or family, whatever. and you have to rescue your family within the time limit. You have 72 hours in game, 24 real world hours to do so. And if you don't save them. And so it forces the player to like act with urgency and figure it out. Some people have bashed this and have been like, sounds terrible, whatever. I like that they're trying something new. I like that they're shaking it up. You know, one of the common complaints about Far Cry is that it's basically the same game, just with a new skin every few years. You know, sometimes the new skin is awesome and is super clever and interesting, but it's basically the same thing. They're trying something totally different, totally new here. And I like that. I like them trying new stuff. And who knows, maybe it ends up working really well. For example, I really like Dead Rising. Dead Rising had the same kind of system where they had an in-game timer and you had to keep on it. And if you ignored it, you just would fail the main story quest. You know, whatever the text said when it came on screen, it was like, the truth fades into the abyss or whatever it is. But then you just play the game. You're like, yeah, the helicopter's not going to come and rescue me, but I'll just hang out in the mall, have fun, explore, whatever. It's super good time. So I think that this could work. Now it does require like major redesigns to how the game is structured. So for example, if they go with the standard, like what's the Far Cry 5 map look like? Well, maybe Far Cry 6 interactive map genie. Here we go. It's like this. If you have the game set up like this and you have a time limit, players will not be going to each and every single POI because they don't have the time to. So I think you've got to restructure how the world is designed. You have to kind of rethink that and do far fewer collectathon style layouts of POIs and instead shift towards larger POIs, larger areas that are maybe a little bit more involved, but fewer and farther in between. And again, I think Dead Rising is a good game to look at for inspiration for how they did that. But that also allows you to be much more focused and maybe tighten up the scope, because I think also some of these games suffer from feature creep and the scope getting a little bit out of control. Because this is a lot to juggle, you know. And I think if you gave players this and said, you have 24 hours, save your family, it would be a little too much. It'd be too big an ask. But I think if it's much more narrow and focused, it could work. And I think that that's something we've seen with AC Shadows, is that Ubisoft is trying hard to tighten scope and improve quality. And I think Shadows, that's why I said at the opening of my review, I think it's a great step in that direction. I think it's a great step in the right direction. Not quite there yet. I think that there's still things, you know, plenty of things I would change in Shadows, but I do think it's a step in the right direction because it's a prioritization of trying to do fewer things better instead of just a ton of stuff. Okay. So hearing them shift their approach to be much more about a tighter scope, 24 hours is how much time you have to save your family. You're not going to be doing every single little collectathon thing in the map. You're going to be trying to save your family and you're going to be focused on that. I think that that's a good direction to shift towards. It might not end up working well. It might end up being a disaster, or it might end up being phenomenal. We don't know yet. But I've seen some people be like, sounds awful, it's terrible. I'm like, I don't know. I'm actually intrigued. And at the very least, it's something new and fresh, which I'm all here for. I love that. Give me something fresh. Something fresh. Honestly, I will believe it when I see it. They used to make good games, but it ended up being mindless, blow, busy work. Well, exactly. That's why I think the idea of limiting it down to a specific time limit, that seems to go directly in the face of what has been the last like 10-year philosophy for Ubisoft, which has just been to go bigger, broader, with more stuff, just cram more stuff in it. And this now seems like they are intentionally limiting themselves and player time as a result, which I find interesting. I'm like, okay, let's see. If that means we have a tighter scope, that's better. I'm interested in it. Same with like Hexe. Hexe apparently is not going to be like this big open world game. It's going to be a more tight, linear narrative game, like more of a Naughty Dog structure to a Ubisoft Assassin's Creed game, which is more reminiscent of like older Assassin's Creed games, like 1 and to a certain extent. I mean, technically it's open, but you get what I mean. Like it's much more narrow. So we'll see. We'll see. Just while I talk about Far Cry 7, it went up to 596. Jesus, dude. Oh man. Oh, my lungs. My lungs. Let's see. Do I have anything else? Vampire the Masquerade. There's a preview. It got delayed again, but the preview apparently was pretty good. I'm honestly not sure if we'll be able to talk about this. I'll have to look at it. We looked at one trailer for a game and then we tried to do a stream clip of it and it got taken down or it got flagged by YouTube for like the gore in it. So I'm gonna have to double check if we can talk about this game, or we might have to like structure it differently where we do like, we look at the gameplay, but I ramble for 3 minutes before we hit play so that it doesn't flag things automatically. I don't know. We'll have to try something like that. They're very iffy. I think it was an AC Shadows clip of like an assassination and there was blood on screen within the first 90 seconds of the video. And so YouTube flagged it. I don't know. Have I played the Kazan game yet? No, but I do plan to. We have something in the works for that. Yeah. It's in the works. We'll get to it. I can't be too specific because it's tied to something else we're doing and we have like a partner for the video, so it's complicated. But again, we'll get there. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Later Storm, thank you for the 2. Are you ready for the Nintendo Direct tomorrow? I don't know. It's for Switch 1 stuff, so I don't know if there's going to be anything really cool. Because you would think if they have really cool stuff, especially first party and third party devs, they're just going to hold it for the Switch 2 event on like April 2nd? A week from now. So like, I can't imagine they have anything really cool to show. And because if they did, they would just hold it for the big event on the 2nd. But who knows? Who knows? Let's see. Fune, thank you for the other 5. I just realized you sent the same message through 2 super chats. You don't have to do that. I'll get back to them. We just have like, you guys are so very generous with your super chats, and we have so many people chatting that sometimes it takes me a while to catch up on super chats and stuff because I like to talk about each one if I can. So yeah, it just takes time, but never feel the need to like double super chat to get my attention. You're fine. I will try to get to it eventually. It just can take some time. Let's see. I read that one. Miki Parkinson, thank you for the sub with Prime, my friend. Thank you. And Marquez Benny, thank you for the sub as well. Thank you. The Daddiest Pickle. What a name. I love that. Yeah, it would be hating if you just said, this effing sucks, boo. Instead, I don't think it's very good, and this is why. It's just criticism as a reviewer, which is your job. Yeah, I mean, it really is not that complicated. But I think, if you have your brain set in the gear of tribalistic thinking, and it's like either you love it or you hate it, it's really hard to understand that you can like something while not liking parts of it. It can be a mix. There can be gray. It's easy online, especially if you're trying to like just get quick rage bait clicks or just fanboy clicks. It's easy to just whittle stuff down to white and black. But most things are not white and black. Like there's some good and there's some bad, Get this Luke guy out of here. We need Jor. I know, right? Steam on Xbox. I guess we could talk about that. Yeah. Because that's a whole thing. Where's... Yeah, I guess I can show this. News segment. So, let me see. Oh, there's also this. You know what, let's talk about this first, because I think that this is newer. I was going to touch on the Xbox thing because they posted this picture, and if you zoom in close, you can see that there's a tab that says Steam on it. So immediately people were like, oh my God, they're going to put Steam games on the Xbox. I don't think that's what's happening. I think they're basically just creating the Xbox app, kind of like the GOG like Galaxy launcher, if you've ever used that, where you can integrate all of your games into one platform. You can do it on Steam too. You can add like non-Steam games to your library, but I think it's more of a UI concept more than anything. But basically the idea, I think, is that they're going to just try to unify everything under one app. I don't think it means that we're going to get like Steam libraries on Xbox Series X consoles. I don't think that's what that means. If it is, that's awesome. That'd be great. But I don't think that that's probably what ends up happening. But I guess we'll see eventually. But yeah, it's caused a lot of people to like have meltdowns a little bit. Just a little bit. Okay, let's talk about this though. News segment. So the news just broke from Jason Schreier that the next Naughty Dog game, Intergalactic: The Heretic Prophet, is reportedly not coming out until after 2026, meaning 2027, 2028, something like that. Which would mean a solid like 7 years between releases, which is crazy. I know technically they've done remasters and remakes, but you get what I mean, like actual full releases. So a bizarre thing. There's a chance that the Heretic Prophet comes out as a cross-generational game between PS5 and PS6. That would be crazy if they like literally like almost completely leapfrogged over the PS5 generation. That would be crazy. But with this, there's also been some discourse with Neil Druckmann talking to IGN about the game, which I figured we could go through this real quick and touch on. So yeah, Jason Schreier took to Reset Era to say that neither The Witcher 4 nor Intergalactic will be out next year, which already it feels weird to say like, oh, it's not out next year, therefore it's 2026 or it's 2027 at the earliest. My brain still doesn't think that it's 2025. That feels crazy. Next year is 2026, but that's where we are. So we're starting to push towards the end of the generation already, which again is insane. But anyway, that means Witcher 4 Intergalactic: The Heretic Prophet will be released in 2027 at the earliest. And like The Witcher 4 Intergalactic: The Heretic Prophet will face questions around whether or not it's targeting the PlayStation 5 or the inevitable PlayStation 6, or perhaps most likely it's a cross-gen game. I think, again, this is the most likely thing. I don't think they would have revealed it if they thought that it was going to be a PS6 game. I just don't think it makes sense to reveal it right now as a PS5 game and then delay it into the PlayStation 6. To me, it makes sense that it's a cross-gen thing. Think of what they did with The Last of Us. The Last of Us was a PS3 game, and then they did a remaster that unlocked it at 60 high resolution on the PS4 like a year later with the DLC, the Left Behind. Is it Left Behind? I think it is. I don't know. Whatever the DLC is. I'm now questioning myself. But anyway, I think that they probably do that. Maybe they release it on the PS5, do a remaster, remake, whatever that they love a year later and do it that way. So they continue on. If Intergalactic heads straight to PlayStation 6, Naughty Dog faces the prospect of having skipped the PS5 generation in terms of brand new games. So far, the studio's released ports, remasters, and remakes on Sony's current gen console, including The Last of Us Part 2, Uncharted Lost Legacy, or Legacy of Thieves collection, The Last of Us Part 1, and The Last of Us Part 2 remastered. My understanding is that these projects have primarily been a training tool for new hires. I forget where I saw that, but I think it was one of the employees at Naughty Dog was like, yeah, we've been using these projects to help train new employees on the tools that we use for our upcoming games, which is not a bad way to do it. I mean, notably, I think Todd Howard even said that Skyrim Anniversary Edition was a training tool for them to like practice on next gen hardware, which at the time was PS4 and Xbox One, or it was around that time, and then they eventually released it. So anyway, but this is like a common thing. Naughty Dog revealed Intergalactic: The Heretic Prophet at the Game Awards in 2024. It features a star-studded cast that involves Tati Gabrielle from Uncharted movie as protagonist, Jordan A. Munn, and Kumail Nanjiani of Marvel's Eternals as a man called Colin Graves. But fans have analyzed the trailer below to piece together the rest of the cast, and though it focuses on just a couple of characters, a photo vote appears to be the whole crew revealed more. Earlier this month, Last of Us director Neil Druckmann shared more details about the game. In an interview with Alex Garland, the writer of the zombie movie 28 Days Later, Druckmann talked candidly about the development process, confirming Intergalactic had been in the works for 4 years already. 4 years. 4 years. Now, notably, this is the first game built from the ground up under Naughty Dog's new, philosophy, new culture, or whatever. Basically, prior to up until The Last of Us Part 2, Naughty Dog was known as Crunch City. It just was. If you worked at Naughty Dog, it was understood that you were crunching like a madman. You might have been sleeping at the studio. There were stories of people that would keep a pillow under their desk so that they could work until the late hours of the night, sleep, wake up in the morning, and just get back to work. That was just the culture. That's just what you did. And it was never mandated. My understanding is it was never mandated by the company, but it was one of those things if everybody else around you is working late and you're the one person that leaves, you're probably not getting that promotion. You're probably going to be made fun of by your fellow coworkers. You're probably going to be guilt tripped about it. That's just how it happens. The peer pressure. It's a big problem. And if you watch the Grounded 2 documentary, they talked about how after they got the Last of Us Part 2 out, they focused very hard on trying to strip that out of the company, on trying to make it much more healthy as a work environment. So they put in, steps to anonymously say if you're overworked and then somebody comes forward and can make sure you get the time you need. They're able to make sure that you're not working late. They're able to do all of this stuff to just ensure things are working properly, which I think is good. But it also means that if they used to get, they work you 100% and then they got another 30% labor out of you because you were working overtime and staying late. Now they don't have that. So their productivity has fallen, so it takes them longer to make the games. But that's the cost of not having a toxic workplace, I guess. But he says, quote, "I joke about this with the team. We made a game, The Last of Us 2. We made certain creative decisions that got us a lot of hate. A lot of people love it, but a lot of people hate that game," Druckmann said, to which Garland joked, "Who gives a shit?" This is one thing I'll give him credit for, is that he's just a lot of people hate The Last of Us Part 2. He's at least saying it, as it is, because it's true. A lot of people hate The Last of Us Part 2. They just do. We looked at that interview with Todd Howard with, I think it was Greg Miller, and he was like, how do you respond to the polarized reception? Some people really like that game. Some people thought it was really bad. What do you think of that, Todd? And Todd's like, yeah, there's a lot of people that loved Starfield, and there's a lot of people that loved it less. It's that's the most used car salesman corporate doublespeak thing ever. No, they didn't hate it. They just loved it less than the people that loved it. It's technically that's true. If the people that loved it this much, and the people that hated it loved it zero, technically, yeah, they loved it less. But you know what you're doing. You're trying to spin it, make it sound better. But Druckmann is just nah, a lot of people hate it. Which, again, I appreciate. He's just yep, some people hate it. Yep. Druckmann says, exactly, in response to this. But the joke is you know what? Let's do something that people won't care as much about. Let's make a game about faith and religion. But as long as it's okay. Faith, religion as topics in stories, that's fine. That's fine. If it's a unique religion that's invented for this, that's cool. I think that can work. Because these topics are interesting. Just earlier in the stream, we were talking about Detroit Become Human, and I love how they explored some of these topics of sentience, topics about class systems, the idea that if an android, if a robot can present itself and can appear human, does it mandate being treated as human? If you can't tell the difference between a real human and a fake human, should you treat them both the same? Just to cover your bases. You know, it created a lot of interesting topics. Now, they were a little heavy-handed in Detroit Become Human with some of the other themes, especially at the end of the game, where it's like, yeah, we know what you're saying with the robots. We're like, hey, the robots are going to be rounded up and then decommissioned in these giant chambers. Like, we all knew what you were doing. But still, like, I thought that some of those topics were interesting. And because it was in this alternative future and everything was fictional, you could discuss it without necessarily pissing a lot of people off right at the outset. So it could work. It could work. But it's a game about faith and religion, which I'm sure we'll see how that cookie crumbles. Intergalactic: The Heretic Prophet takes place in an alternative historical timeline and features a pretty prominent religion too, which has changed and bastardized and evolved over the years. So they're actually going to take a real world, pretty prominent religion and change, bastardize, and evolve it. I mean, we'll see how this goes. They might be playing with fire. Okay, we'll see. It would be really funny if it were like Scientology and like you play this game and then L. Ron Hubbard is just there with wings and he's the final boss fight. I'd be in for that. Xenu shows up. You know what? This sounds great. I'm in, Neil. You convinced me. This whole religion takes place on this one planet, and then at one point, all communication stops, Druckmann teased, and you're playing a bounty hunter that's chasing her bounty. Makes sense. And she crash lands on this planet. So many of the previous games we've done, there's always like an ally with you, he said. I really want you to be lost in a place that you're really confused about what happened here. Who are the people here? What was their history? And in order to get off this planet, again, no one has heard from this planet for over 600 years or so. If you ever have hoped to have a chance to get off, you have to figure out what happened here. Assuming Intergalactic: The Heretic Prophet releases in 20... I'll get to that in a second. This is the other thing is people have paired this with other interviews that Neil did back like a year, 2 years ago, right in the wake of Elden Ring. And he said, what interests me right now is games that don't hold your hand, games that don't explain things overtly to you. He's like, and we're experimenting with a lot of that. The idea that we can tell stories without having to have cutscenes and dialogue. You know, we can just tell it environmentally. And I think that that's what they're going to do. And there's been all sorts of leaks, rumors, and rumblings that people internally at Naughty Dog are comparing this to Elden Ring in terms of structure. So it seems like it's going to be a much different game than something like The Last of Us Part 2. Much different. So we'll see. Assuming Intergalactic: The Heretic Prophet releases in 2027 and taking into account Druckmann's comment about it being in development for 4 years or so, or so far, by the time the game comes out, it will have been in the works for 6 years. It's a pretty long wait, but speaking to IGN on the red carpet ahead of The Last of Us Season 2 premiere, Druckmann said that Intergalactic: The Heretic Prophet is not only playable right now, but, quote, really good. He said on the red carpet, quote, I will say we are playing it at the office and it's incredible. It's really good. I'm so excited to finally put gameplay out into the world and show people about it because we just showed you the very, very, very tip on the iceberg. The game goes pretty deep beyond that, which I believe. My stance has always been that I think it probably ends up being a really impressive game because Naughty Dog knows how to make really impressive games. But I just think that trailer was a bad trailer. I don't think it communicated enough about the game, and I don't blame people for being kind of underwhelmed by it. But I do think if they come out swinging with like a gameplay trailer, the narrative around the game could totally shift. If it actually is you know, reminiscent of Elden Ring in terms of structure, and they have some really big, unique boss fights and things, and the combat system's really good, and the graphics are on the level they typically achieve, it could be really stunning. It could be really impressive. I'm excited to see it, but we just don't have more to go with at this point. When do I think we practically see it? I think we realistically see it probably late, like mid to late next year. I'd be surprised if we see anything this year about it. Maybe we do, but I think that they're going to let The Last of Us Season 2 kind of take the focus, and they'll put out The Last of Us Part 2 remaster, whatever remake on PC here in just like a week or so. And then I think Sony's efforts are all going to be on Ghost of Yotei through the end of this year. So I think that the soonest we probably see Intergalactic is maybe Game Awards again with a gameplay reveal, or next summer, maybe. But I just, if it's not coming out till 2027, I don't know why they would start doing a lot of like gameplay reveals now, like unless they're just trying to fill out a summer showcase. But that's the thing, is like they have Ghost of Yotei for the end of this year. They have the Horizon online game. They have a couple of other Horizon projects as well. They have Fair Game $. They have Death Stranding 2. Like they have things to show this summer, this June. I just don't know if they need Heretic Prophet. I think that they could probably sit on that till next year and be fine. But who knows? Maybe they'll surprise us. We're also getting Saros gameplay reveal this year. Yeah, exactly. Like they've got a lot of stuff, and I think that they probably don't need to reveal the Naughty Dog gameplay yet.
Cool Pandas donated $10 through Super Chat.
Thank
The
you.
good guys in TLOU TV show were self-proclaimed communists. Meanwhile, the only Christians were cannibal pedophiles. Super stoked to see Druckmann's take on religion in his next game. Lol.
Yeah, I do. When I read that they're using like a pretty, what he said is pretty prominent religion as the starting point for this, I was like, interesting choice, because they could have done something just totally out there. Like they literally could have done Scientology or something kind of like it, or just invent a cult, you know. But, or like the Applewhite guy. They could have taken that, and that's the starting point for all of this stuff. But instead, it seems like they're going to do a pretty prominent religion like Christianity or Judaism or Islam or something. Yeah, I don't know. Buddhism. I have no idea. But they're going to take a pretty prominent religion, and then they're going to expand that, fictionalize it, and then put it in the future. And that just seems to me like you're playing with fire unnecessarily, you know? Like, just invent something new. Make it pure fiction. You can have similes, you can have symbolism, parallels, you know, that's fine. Space Mormons could be fun. That could be really fun. I agree. That could be fun. I don't know. The Heaven's Gate cult is right there. Yeah, exactly. Like that. And it timed out about right? Because I think the Heaven's Gate cult thing happened in the 90s, I want to say. So if this game splits in the timeline in the 80s, that could time out well. Wouldn't it be funny if in this timeline, it's like the Heaven's Gate guys were right. They did actually get picked up by a UFO that was riding on the back of a comet. Like, that would be kind of fun. Yeah. Metaphor had Sanctus Church, which was clearly Christians. Well, it's like a parallel to like Catholicism. But that's why, like, you just make your own fictional religion. You can have it look and feel really similar to a real world religion, but just make your own, because then you don't have to deal with any of the drama, you know? I mean, there will be some drama, but you don't have to deal with any of the direct complaints about it, you know? Scientology love to sue. They used to. They haven't really done that in like 10, 15 years. I think they realized that wasn't actually helping them. In the 2000s, they did it all the time. But I think since the 2010s, they kind of gave up on it. It's a fictional religion. In this article, he says that it's a pretty prominent religion, and then they explore it, exaggerate it over 600 years. So of course in this game, I'm sure it appears totally different, but if they end up just playing with like a real religion and then extrapolating that, I don't know, prominent in that world, I guess maybe that could be it. I guess what I'll say here, Jacob, make sure to include this in the clip, okay? Just so we don't have anybody complaining. I'm not sure if they're going to take a real world religion in this world and extrapolate that into a fictionalized version of it in the future for the game that they then explore. Or if they're taking a totally fictionalized religion and then extrapolating that over 600 years and exploring that. I'm not sure which it is. If they're starting from a real religion and then expanding and exploring, or if they're fictionalizing it and then exploring. I don't know which one it is. But I hope some of you guys are saying it's confirmed that it's a totally fictional religion. If that's the case, that's the right choice. That's all I'm saying. That's the right choice. Except the righter choice would have been, of course, to do like Space Mormons. I think that could be fun. Like, you know, big boss fight against a like sheet of brownies that they baked for you. Dude, Mormons are so nice. I've had lots of Mormon neighbors. There's a lot of Mormons in Colorado because we're close to Utah, and they are the sweetest people. Sweetest people. And I'm telling you, they need more representation. Space Mormons, that's a game. That's a game right there. Tell you what. Amish, Space Amish. Now that, I would love to see how they ended up on this planet. Can you spacefaring Amish people? Can you imagine? Dude, that would be fun. That would be really cool. Let's see. Neil confirmed it's a brand new religion that started in the 80s, 2,000 years later. In the 80s, 2000 years. Okay. Okay. Either way. Okay. So people are saying, MHM is saying it is a totally fictional religion. Right choice. That's good. Doing like Christianity or Judaism or something and then stretching it and fictionalizing it to explore the topic, I think is unnecessarily going to stir up drama. So I agree. If that's the case, that's the better way. Muppetology, dude, I swear to God, if the final boss fight is against Miss Piggy, I would love that. I would love that. Can you imagine? Kermie! She's fighting with his corpse or something as a weapon. Dude, we need that. We need that. Okay, everybody, we've got a podcast to do. We've got a podcast to do with the one and only Joe Raptor. So I'm going to end this stream event. I'm going to boot up the other stream event, and we're going to do that. Let me copy the link. If you're on Twitch, you can stay put where you are and rock and roll. That's totally chill. Let me paste this in YouTube chat. Yeah, if you are on YouTube, there will be a new event that you can hop over to. There we go. I just posted it in chat, so you can head over there. Much love. We're going to talk with Jor. Have a great time. We'll start in like probably 5 minutes or so, and I'll see you over there, okay? Much love. Thank you, everybody, for the super chats. You guys are amazing. Much love. I'll see you in just a few minutes over there, okay? Much love.